We're live on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, about to be live on Rockfin. The GOP debate tonight, and we are down to 2. Real quick run through of the news before we get to the start of the debate, as I will have a few guests joining me here momentarily, but it's been quite a news week. We have Chris Christie dropping out of the race. Let's hope wherever he falls can bear. We have Hunter Biden storming Congress and then storming out of Congress after storming into Congress. One can only wonder what Hunter Biden's life would have been like had his father only showered with him when he was 14. Might have never gone down the path of drugs that he went down. We have the ongoing saga of the Tunnel Jews, which sounds to me like a Woody Allen film. Nick Saban retires. And then we have a headline here on Drudge that says, Newsom and Clinton huddle. What is that? Newsom and Clinton huddle in California? Probably around children. Just speculating. Maybe Jimmy Kimmel's there. Maybe he's not. I don't know. You'll have to ask Jimmy in his next monologue where he promises everyone that he's not a pedophile, nor has he ever been one. Have to take him at his word. He doesn't even know who Jeffrey Epstein is, Jimmy Kimmel. He's never heard of Jeffrey Epstein in his life. Let's get to this debate. Hosted by Jake Tapper of CNN.
For moderating tonight's debate alongside my friend and colleague,
Hello, Stella.
Jenna Bash.
And just 5 days from now, voters here in Iowa will cast the first votes of the 2024 presidential race.
Stella, are you there?
Hey, mate. Hey.
Yeah, there you are. I can hear you now. So does the audio sound all right? Can you hear that? It's muted right now, but it's obviously
Tonight's
not.
debate, but blind.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just
In this debate is to provide
setting up and getting.
to voters,
Oh, you're good.
especially here in Iowa, before
Oh, when are we live?
contests
Oh, we are. Okay.
begin
We're
next
live.
week.
Yeah,
So in
we're live.
choosing
Sorry about
topics, we focused
Didn't
on the
expect you
issues
to be on
important to Republicans. Let's bring out the candidates now. Please welcome Florida
Yeah,
Governor Ron
everything's good.
DeSantis.
I can hear you. Going well?
Yeah. There he is. I predict that they're going to constantly be
Please
framing.
welcome former
I think they're going to frame the shot all night tonight where it looks like Nikki Haley is much, much taller and impactful and authoritative than DeSantis. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they like put the camera all the way up and barely had DeSantis' head, and then they gave her like the hero framing.
Please take your positions behind the podiums while we remind you and our
Boy,
audience
she reminds me of
of the
someone.
ground
She's an
rules.
actress.
Each of you will have
The devil.
90 seconds to answer questions, 60 seconds for responses and rebuttals, and 15 seconds for clarifications. Timing lights will remind you when time is expiring.
We also remind our audience here in the Sheslow Auditorium at Drake University to be respectful so the candidates can hear the questions and can
he's
hear
respectful.
each other.
Just hours ago, the Republican field narrowed once again. Former New
Significantly
Jersey Governor
narrowed.
Chris Christie ended his bid for the presidency. So, with one fewer candidate in the running, let's start with the decision voters here in Iowa are about to face. Governor DeSantis, why should voters who are looking for an alternative to the current frontrunner, former President Trump, vote for you rather than former Governor Haley?
Well, the people of Iowa, good evening. It's great to be in Iowa to have a debate here. Donald Trump's running to pursue his issues. Nikki Haley's running to pursue her donors' issues. I'm running to pursue your issues and your family's issues and to turn this country around. I'm the only one running that's delivered on 100% of the promises that I've made. We've delivered huge victories in the state of Florida, things that Republicans have been asking for a generation. I'm also the only one running that has beaten the left time and time again. We beat the teachers union on universal school choice. We beat Soros on crime. We beat Fauci on COVID. We beat the Dems on election integrity. And I beat the left by banning China from buying land in the state of Florida. Now, Nikki Haley is running. We don't need another mealy-mouthed politician who just tells you what she thinks you want to hear just to try to get your vote. then to get in office and to do her donors' bidding. She was in another state, and she said the people of Iowa's votes need to be corrected.
She's
This
got
is
a
somebody that
one-liner
wrote
up her
in
sleeve. I can
book
tell by the
that
look on her
Hillary
face.
Clinton
Yep.
inspired her to first run for office. I
She
remember
also has a
Hillary
lot of pearls to
denigrating
clutch.
people on the Republican side as deplorables. We don't need a candidate who's going to look down
Triple
on
stringer.
middle America. We've had enough of that.
That
I'm
is
the only
quite
one
the
that's
pearl
going to be able
necklace.
to lead this country's
A lot of clutching
revival.
up his sleeve.
I'm asking for your support, and I won't let you down.
Governor Haley, your response?
Welcome, Ian.
Well, I think
Hey,
this is
what's
a
going
time that we
on?
know that we
Ian,
need
Stella,
a new
Stella, Ian.
generational leader.
Hey,
We have
Stella.
Ian.
watched our country
There you
be
go.
in disarray. We
I'm
see
doing
the
great.
world
How
on
are you?
fire, and we need someone who's had executive experience. I've been a two-term governor that took a double-digit unemployment state and turned it into an economic powerhouse. I was at the UN. I dealt with
Pearl
Russia,
necklace
China,
took double
Iran
D.
every day. But you're going to find out tonight that there's going to be a lot of Ron's lies that have happened. There are at least a couple of dozen so
You
far
think
that
Ron's
he's
drawing
done.
penises over
So
there?
what we're going to do is rather than have him go and tell you all these lies, you can go to DeSantisLies.com and look at all of those. There's at least 24 lies that he's told
DeSantis?
about me, and you can see where
Yeah.
fact checkers say
It's a
exactly what's
website
gonna
with
happen
24 lies.
and exactly why it's wrong. So it will cover the fact that he's only mad about the donors because the donors used to be with him, but they're no longer with him now. And that's because he's upset
What if she gave out the
about
wrong
fact that his-
address and it's like a
his
snuff
campaign
film
is
she
exploding.
sends us
You're
to?
going to see the fact that
Yeah,
he has
someone's hacked
switched his policies multiple times, and we'll call that out tonight. But every time he lies, Drake University, don't turn this into a drinking game because you will be overserved by the end of the night.
Well, I think
Oh,
this is
good. That's the
interesting
one-liner she had in
because,
mind.
You can actually
Yeah,
go to
that was it.
RonDeSantis.com because Nikki
Boom.
Haley has this tactic. If you hold her accountable to her record, first she'll say, I never said that. Well, one good rule of thumb, if she says she's never
her
said
facial
something,
expressions
that
when he
definitely means
talks.
she said it. And then she'll say, you're lying, you're lying. That means not only did she say it, but she's on videotape saying it. And so we have all the greatest hits.
Videotape.
The reality is
Yeah,
Nikki
yeah, it's
Haley
old
is not
school.
somebody that has been willing to stand in and fight on behalf of conservatives. You know, she ran for
Nikki Haley
governor saying
VHS
she was going
tapes.
to do universal school choice, and she caved to
Launched
the
her
teachers
career,
union.
wasn't it?
She didn't deliver that. In Florida, I delivered the largest expansion of school choice in the history of the United States. I beat the teachers union, and you know what the results are?
Look at that
When
chick.
she was
She's
governor of
fired up.
South Carolina, she was rated 50th in education, dead last. You know where Florida is under my watch? #1 in the nation.
Your response?
Rank
Governor
number
Haley?
one.
Wow.
I feel like we should have been keeping track of how many times he's going to say the word beat.
DeSantisLies.com and you can
Yeah.
find out for yourself. But why don't we talk about the fact that if we're going to say this, when Ron was representing Florida, he said that he promised not to raise the debt limit when he got to D.C. Yet he raised the debt limit by hundreds of billions of dollars. He used to support Ukraine. He supported Ukraine when President Obama was
He
in
looks
office.
like he's gonna cry.
Now he's trying to copy
does,
Trump
doesn't
and
he?
saying that he no longer supports Ukraine
He
and
is.
doesn't want to give
He's
them
so
foreign aid
sad.
anymore. He also goes and says that he wants to talk about me insulting
she says
Iowans.
that like it's a
Iowans
bad
know when
thing.
you're telling a
Yeah.
joke. The fact that he's only running in one state is not the way you win president. I'm running in all states. But he should tell Iowans why he authored legislation to ban the renewable fuel standard that's so important to Iowans' economy, and the fact that he co-sponsored 5 different pieces of legislation to get rid of it. And also, then he also said he would never do anything with Social Security. Yet he voted 3 times to raise the retirement age of Social
Thank you,
Security. So
Governor.
if you're going to talk about
Thank you,
what you
Governor.
said
Thank you,
and what
Governor.
you did, I think you've got your own explaining to do rather than
we're
telling
gonna-
lies
we're-
about.
Thank you, Governor. We're going to get to a lot of these issues in the debate. Governor Haley, when
Gee,
Governor Christie
Tapper.
dropped out of the race just a few hours ago, he said the most important issue is, quote, the character of the candidate.
Chris
Governor
Christie, the grandma
also
killer,
said he
said that.
ran because he knew he would be the only Republican candidate to speak the truth about former President Donald Trump. Do you believe Donald Trump has
Which
the
is all you're
character to be
looking for in a
president again?
president.
Right.
Well, I think the next president needs to have moral clarity. I think you need to have moral clarity to understand that it's taxpayer money, not your own money. I think you need to have moral clarity to understand that when you're dealing with dictators in the world, that we always have to fight for democracies and human rights and protecting Americans and preventing war. And so when you look at Donald Trump, I have said, I think he was the right president at the right time. I agree with a lot of his policies, but his way is not my way. I don't don't have vengeance. I don't have vendettas. I don't take things personally. For me,
She
it's
just
very
nukes
much
them.
about no drama,
Unless you
no
talk about my
whining,
daughter.
and getting results and getting them done. So I don't think that President Trump is the right president to go forward. I think it's time for a new generational leader that's going to go and make America proud again. That's what I'm going to try and do.
Mappa.
Governor DeSantis.
Oh, make America
In
proud.
response to Chris Christie, do you
Make
believe
America
Donald
proud
Trump
again.
has the character to be president again?
Well, I'm running because I'm the guy that's going to be able to engineer a comeback for this country. I appreciated what President Trump did, but let's just be honest. He said he was going to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it. He did not deliver that. He said he was going to drain the swamp. He did not deliver that. He said he was going to hold Hillary accountable, and he let her off the hook. He said he was going to eliminate the debt, and he added $7.8 trillion to the debt.
He's like, I'll slit Hillary's throat
and
day
get this
one.
stuff done. And I think the difference between Nikki Haley and me, I listened to all that litany of stuff. I debated the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. I thought he lied a lot. Nikki Haley gives him a run for his money, and she may even be more liberal than Gavin Newsom is.
That's true.
We are in a situation here in Florida, and as Republicans, you need somebody that is going to be in there and fight for you. And Nikki Haley, anytime the going gets tough, anytime people come down, she caves. When you need someone standing and fight for you, don't look for Nikki Haley. You won't be able to find her if you had a search warrant.
Thank you, Governor Haley.
Look,
think
I
you
think
thought that
I
was
dealt
gonna
with
land a
Russia,
little
China,
harder.
Iran, North
Flashlight.
Korea every day. No one ever said I caved. I defended America, and I fought for America.
That's a stacked audience
But
for
I'll
her.
also say this. This is not a time where you have to have pettiness. I wish Donald Trump was up here on this stage. He's the one that I'm running against. He's the one that I wish
But he's
would
here
be
with
here.
us right
He
now.
needs
With
to
us,
be
yeah.
defending his record. Right now, he's not defending the fact that he allowed us to have $8 trillion in debt over 4 years that our kids are never going to forgive us for. The fact that he didn't deal with China when it came to stealing intellectual property, the fact that they gave us COVID, the fact that they've gone and continued to put up Chinese police stations and continue to threaten our military. He didn't do enough to make sure that we were really standing with our friends and doing some other things. What we need is
You
a
think he's
leader
wearing
that's
gym
not looking at
shorts?
4 years and 8 years. We need a president
is.
that's looking at 20 and 30 years, because I want my kids to have a good future.
He's
I
got
want
high
them to
heels
have
on.
one without debt,
Yeah.
one where they can read, one with secure borders, one where we have law and order, and one where America is strong.
Well,
Thank you.
with all due respect, for her to single out Donald Trump on China, and look, I think he could have been tougher on him 100%. When Nikki Haley was governor of South Carolina, she was the #1 governor in America for Republicans of bringing China into her state. She wrote a love letter to the ambassador saying that they were a great friend. She's on video saying China's a friend. She had a business,
love
Chinese
letter saying
business,
you're a
5
great
miles
friend.
from a
That's a
military
friend
base.
letter.
There's a video of her on the website right in front of a Chinese flag saying that she works for them
Getting
now. So
hammered.
that was her #1 achievement as governor, was bringing China into the state of South Carolina. So you say you're going to look 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Why
Lots of
wasn't she
good
doing
Chinese
that then
restaurants.
when people were raising the red flags about it? In Florida, I banned China from buying land in our state,
Governor
and we
DeSantis.
kicked them out of our university. That's what
Except
you
for
need
the
to be
Chinese
doing.
restaurants.
We're going to talk about China in a
He
little
can't
bit. I
quit
want
him.
to talk about the economy, which according to a recent Des Moines Register poll shows that the economy is the top issue for caucus goers here. So Governor Haley, the rate of inflation is down. Prices, though, are still high, and Americans are struggling to afford food, cars, and housing. What is the single most important policy that you would implement as president to make the essentials in Americans' lives more important?
I think we have to acknowledge that Republicans and Democrats have both done this. I mean, the fact that they've done all of this wasteful spending, they did a $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill that
What's up with her
expanded
American
welfare, that's
flag
now
pin?
left us with 80 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. That's a third of our
Did you see that
country.
glitch out
What I
there?
will do is I think it's time we have an accountant in the White House. We
I
have to
wasn't
have
looking at the
someone that
time, no.
respects taxpayer dollars. And we'll start by clawing back $100 billion of unspent COVID dollars that are still out there.
Which is how much
We'll
those
go in
pearls
instead
are
of
on her neck.
87,000
Three
IRS
strands was
agents
the right
going after
amount.
middle
4
America.
too many,
We'll
2
go
too
after
little.
the hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud, one out of every $7.
That's enough for a really good
If
clutch.
8% of our budget is interest, quit borrowing. cut up the credit cards. I had to balance a budget as governor. You have to balance a budget every day. Why is Congress
She
the only
chokes
group
herself
that
while she
refuses
pegs
to
her
balance a
husband.
budget? We'll stop the spending. We'll stop the borrowing. We'll eliminate the pet projects and the earmarks, and I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. And then we want to make sure that we allow the middle class to breathe. We're going to eliminate the federal gas and diesel tax in this country and cut taxes on the middle class and simplify those brackets. And then we want to make the small business tax cuts permanent. They made corporate tax cuts permanent, but they made small business tax cuts temporary. Small businesses are the heartbeat of America. We need to prove it by making those tax cuts permanent.
Governor DeSantis,
We've got that on videotape.
How would you make those essentials more
There's
affordable
shovel
for
face.
Americans?
Well, I disagree with Ambassador Haley. We don't need an accountant in the White House. We need a leader in the White House, and that's what I would bring. I've spoken with Iowans. I'm visiting all 99 counties, and also folks all across this country. The American dream is slipping away. People are working hard. They're getting the most out of their God-given ability. They're doing everything right, and they're falling further and further behind. Trying to afford a new home today, your monthly mortgage payment would probably be twice as much as what it would have been if you were starting out 5 years ago. We have to make the economy work for those folks. Yes, I'm going to battle the spending. In Florida, you look, we have the national debt clock going up to 34 trillion. I see it. If you did a debt clock for the state of Florida, it would be counting down because we've paid down 25% of our state debt just since I've been governor. We're going to open up all energy for production because that will be deflationary. Nikki Haley, when she was governor, she promised she would never do the gas tax. Then she tried to raise the gas tax on hardworking South Carolinians. Here's the thing. We need to fly a flag of bold colors, carrying the banner of putting the American people first, not the pale pastels of the warmed over corporatism of people like Nikki Haley.
Oh, nice. This literary.
Governor Haley, I want to bring you in, but because Governor DeSantis mentioned the gas tax, you do want to eliminate the federal gas tax.
And
that tax generated
you could just flip her over, hold her by the legs, and dig a deep hole with that shovel face of hers.
And helps pay for road construction and repair. So how would you fix America's roads and bridges if you take that money away?
Well, first of all, bless his heart, DeSantisLies.com. We have never raised a tax. I've never raised a tax.
DeSantisThighs.com.
I can tell you right,
Governor DeSantis, she has the floor.
So I can tell you that we killed the gas tax multiple times.
So
but what we said is if you want to raise the gas tax,
it's the smile of someone who's about to kill you.
by 5 times
Yeah, it totally is.
It is.
They didn't want to do it. We've killed taxes every step of the way. But if he's going to talk about his economy, I think what we should say is, why does Florida have the highest property insurance in the country? Why is it that it is named the American hotspot for inflation? Why is it that his state is now known to have the highest cost of living increases? And why is it that they're saying senior citizens can no longer afford to live in Florida? So that's the first thing I'll say. We don't need him doing that to our country. When it comes to the gas tax, when we eliminate that federal tax, the money is collected in the states and they send it to the feds. The feds attach a lot of strings to it and send it back. 75% comes from the state, 25% comes from the federal government. What they do when they add those strings is they pay for a lot of things that aren't roads, green spaces, sidewalks, all of those things, but they attach strings. I want that money to stay in the states. I want the states to be able to decide how to spend it. I don't want Washington bureaucrats deciding what we need for scenery and green space and all those other things. I want every state, including the state of Iowa, to make the decisions on how they spend their road spending instead of the federal
government. Toddler.
Governor DeSantis, your response?
Well, she kind of admitted that she did try to raise the gas tax.
Reaches
she's
his
on
hands
video
over. He
saying
wants to
this.
choke her
Say
closer
she
to
never
kids.
said it, but she
You
is.
He should-
She did.
He should have come up with a website. DeSantis does not lie.
Or wearheels.com.
That's on the record. And she even proposed a tax on groceries at one point. But I'm just thinking, have you seen your grocery bill lately? That's one of the things that's hitting working people the most.
That's true.
Groceries are going up.
You don't have a tax
probably
on
twice
groceries?
as much what you do. But I also think it's important that we lift people up. So in Florida, we eliminated all sales tax on every baby item. Diapers, wipes, strollers, cribs. We want families to be able to prosper in this country. One of the things that's causing so much problem is the breakdown in the American family. We've done a lot in Florida to be able to rejuvenate that, but we need to make it easier for people to raise children in this country so that we can have strong families in a strong country.
Governor DeSantis, At a
And more
CNN
slaves.
town hall last week, you said you support a flat tax, which is a single income tax rate for every American. Under your plan, would working families pay the same tax rate as billionaires?
I would only do it if people are better off than they are now. I mean, I want people paying less taxes. Actually, if you think the last year we have numbers for, the federal government took in the highest percentage of taxes from the economy since World War II. And yet they're going deep into
Did you
debt.
see
We
that
have a
glitch?
spending problem in this country. It's
Is that
not
just
a
my
tax
screen?
problem in this country. And if you had something that was simple and transparent, not only would that be better for economic
Saw a bit of
growth, it's
something.
also better to end the weaponization of government.
not the background,
The
is it?
IRS has been weaponized against
wondering.
conservatives
Might be.
going back to the Obama administration. I was there for that. No one's been held accountable for doing that. You look at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Justice, the weaponization of federal power ends the day I become the president of the United States. There's going to be a new sheriff in town. We're going to restore the
I wish you would pull out a
constitutional
badge and
accountability
put it on
that
when
our
you said
founding
that.
fathers envisioned
That's right. The
When
president's
when
also the
they
sheriff.
formatted the Constitution. And, you know, I've talked to folks
President
who
Sheriff.
have overbearing federal agencies. I mean, you have farmers who have the EPA coming on their farmland because there's maybe a puddle there, waters of the United States. Give me a break. So we're going to reduce the size of government, but we're also going to reduce
Yeah, it'll
the
just
scope
be him,
of government.
president,
And
sheriff.
in Florida, I've actually
And a
delivered
couple
on
of
this.
deputies.
Florida has the lowest percentage of state government workers per capita in the country, and the cost of our state government employees is the lowest in the country. No wonder why we're paying down debt while we're cutting taxes for people. That's the way you do it.
Governor
There
DeSantis,
you go, Ron.
15-second point of clarification. The question was whether or not working families would pay the same amount.
They would pay
as
less than
billionaires.
what they're paying now. The way I view it is, okay, you'd exempt people, so you would pay no tax for working
moves around like
class
a
people.
bobblehead
It would
too
only
much.
be as you get above, because I think the first
Just see him on my
40, 50
dashboard.
grand, that's just to subsist.
Except
And
to be
even
more
some places
stable
you
than the
can't even do
actual
that.
DeSantis.
So you would have no tax up to a certain point, and then it would just be a single rate. So if somebody
Thank
makes
you.
$100,000, they pay a certain amount. If someone makes $200,000, they
Thank
make
you, Governor
twice as much,
DeSantis.
and they pay twice as much.
Governor Haley, a
I mean,
response?
first of all, you just can't trust what he says. I mean, that's the biggest thing. We don't have a grocery tax in South Carolina, and I never once raised taxes, period. But what I will tell you is it is to call into question, why did he promise he'd never raise the debt limit, and he turned around and he raised it? And then you want to go and you see one side of what he says early on, and then he changes it. So here he goes and he says that he is all for energy independence. He wants to get the EPA out of the way. Well, why did he run on the fact that he wanted to ban fracking and ban offshore drilling? Why did he go and author that
sexual
legislation to
innuendos?
eliminate the renewable fuel standard that matters so much? And why now is he suddenly coming to Iowa and saying, oh, never mind, I don't mean all of that? Why did he call Trump and say that he wanted him to stop drilling 9 miles into federal waters? Why is he now
9
saying
miles
this?
into that
Why do you
ass.
come to the people of Iowa and say one thing when you campaigned and on day 2 of your office, you banned fracking, you banned offshore drilling, you turned around and authored and led the charge on banning the renewable fuel
Governor.
standard?
Yeah.
You've got to stand up for those things
You've been
did.
beating that dead horse. That's been
Because
debunked
it's
multiple
true,
times.
Ron. It's
We're
true.
looking forward to be able to open up definitely here in the
They
Midwest.
just don't have the zip that
biofuels.
Vivek
I'm the
has
only
when they
one
come
that
back.
checks all the
No,
boxes
Vivek makes this
from
way
the
more
Iowa
fun.
renewable fuel standard, because I've actually visited all 99 counties. I've actually shown up to people's farms. I've sat and I've listened
Vivek
to
is
people
the Kramer
about
of
what they're
this
going
crew,
through,
you
how their
That's why they
economy
didn't
is
let him in
structured,
this
and how
night.
it's important that we're producing energy here in the United States. I never want to go hat in hand like Biden has done to Venezuela or Saudi and begging for energy. We're going to be able to open up production. We're going to choose Midland over Moscow. We're going to choose the Marcellus Shale over the mullahs, and we're going to choose the Bakken over Beijing.
Like,
energy independence.
3% of people watching
it's good for
knew what it
consumers.
is.
Yeah, it
It's
just
good to
sounded
reduce
like gibberish
inflation.
to almost
It's one of the
everybody.
best things we can do for our national security. So we'll do that on day one, and we are going to reverse
got a lot to do on
Biden's
day
Green
one.
New Deal and the electric vehicle mandates. Will save the
They
American
do emphasize
automobile.
that.
Thank you, Governor.
Yeah.
This has
Trump
been
is emphasizing
one
that
of
as
the
well.
biggest years for illegal border crossings into the United States. Last month alone, 225,000 migrants illegally crossed the southern border. It's a record high, overwhelming the Border Patrol resources that are already stretched thin. Mayors across the country say their cities are being pushed to a breaking point. Governor DeSantis, former President Trump famously promised to build a wall on the southern border. He obviously did not get that done. You have promised to finish the job.
What if we built a
How
window?
will you succeed where
So they
he
can
failed?
see what they can't have.
Yeah.
We will build a wall. We will actually have Mexico pay for it in the way that I thought Donald Trump was. We're going to charge fees on remittances.
Is he going to
that
ask
workers
about the
send to
tunnel
foreign
Jews?
countries.
I just need
Billions
to
of
know what their
dollars
thoughts are.
will build the
I
wall.
know.
He also promised record deportations. Donald Trump deported fewer people than Barack Obama did when he was president. Biden's let in 8 million people just in 4 years. They all have to go
Did you
back.
just call Trump
we
black?
have to enforce the rule of law in this country. Think about what's happening to our country. Just this week, we saw the news that a school in Brooklyn, New York, had the kids stay home. They were not able to go to school, told you can't go get an in-person education. Why? Because the city's commandeering the school to house illegal aliens in it. Talk about putting Americans last. You're putting these kids out of an education because you can't control the border. Biden has failed in this endeavor. He has not taken care that the laws of this country be faithfully executed. Do not trust Nikki Haley with illegal immigration. That's like having the fox guard the hen house. She's on tape.
The podium still get closer.
She was chastising conservatives, saying it's
each other.
disrespectful to illegal aliens to say that they're criminals. They're violating the law.
He wants
It's
to eat
disrespectful
chokers so
when
bad.
people come to this country illegally and impose burdens on our communities and run drugs into this country. That's what's disrespectful. She's weak on immigration. She's bankrolled by people who want open borders. And she said there shouldn't be a limit on immigration. You should work with corporate CEOs.
Thanks, Governor.
That is pale past.
She reminds me of
Governor,
Catherine
thank you so much.
Hepburn.
So, Governor Haley,
A little bit. I think they should get their own hype
Governor
person.
DeSantis and also Donald
They-
Trump.
they need it.
Like a hype man behind them, you know?
2015, in which you
She
said
will
undocumented
blow up
immigrants should not be
foreign
called, quote,
countries
criminals.
for
At the
your
time, the full context is you
ass.
said, quote, we don't need to talk about them as criminals. They're not. They're families that want a better life and they're desperate to get here, unquote. Do you still feel that way?
I saw them. When I was at the United Nations, I saw them. That doesn't mean we should let them into our country. I mean, first of all, I will tell you
She
that
looked
when
him in
I
the
was
eye.
governor of South Carolina, we passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. Obama sued us over it, and we won. We fought Obama on illegal immigration. We fought Obama on migrant kids. We fought Obama on Syrian refugees. We fought Obama on Guantanamo Bay prisoners. I have always said we are a country of laws. The second we stop being a country of laws, we give up everything this country was founded on. But I will tell you, in passing that toughest illegal immigration law in the country, we passed E-Verify, which I want to take national, which is where businesses have to prove that the people they hire are in this country legally. I passed it within 6 months of being governor. Ron didn't pass it for 5 years. He only waited to pass it when he decided to run for president. What we need to do is not just ban a wall. We need to put 25,000 Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. We need to defund sanctuary cities once and for all. No more safe havens for illegal immigrants. We need to make sure we go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that no one even steps foot on U.S. soil. And instead of catch and release, we need to go to catch and deport.
Yeah, I see the
That's the
glitches,
only
too.
way we'll stop the incentives of these illegal immigrants coming across. Biden turned around and gave 500,000 Venezuelans temporary protective status. That's 500,000 driver's licenses, 500,000 social security numbers. All that does is incentivize them to pick up the phone, call their
What if
family
they
members
turned
and
like
tell them
Governor
they're bad.
DeSantis?
They live glasses and
When
it
she
just
was governor, she
flickered
did
out
bring
and they were
Syrian
just
refugees,
aliens.
and she got criticized for that.
That is not
she
true.
also, in her comment,
Hold on one second, Governor.
That is not true.
We just added another one.
DeSantis.
We're updating our website in real time.
The disrespect
Probably
comment.
are.
She's talking about that they're all families. If you look right
It
now,
sounds
at
like
the border,
DeSantis. It sounds
these are
like she's his
military-age
ex-wife.
males, many of them, and
Yeah.
they're coming from all across this world.
And she
Yeah,
says
not
catch
just from
and
Central
release. I
America.
mean,
In
it's
fact,
just
you've got
so
them from China,
animals, isn't it?
Iran, Russia, the Middle East. When I was
Fish.
down there a couple years ago,
people.
because I've sent people down there, you had people from Libya and Haiti. This is a ticking time bomb for this country. There are, of
He
course,
pulls
going
out
to
a
be
ticking
terrorist
time
cells
bomb.
that have come in. It's like the lowest cost way to be able to harm this country. Just send people across
Everything's
the
a threat.
southern border. Nikki Haley also opposed the border wall in 2016. She said that she
I hope he
ridiculed it when
accuses her
Donald
of
Trump was
raping
forming.
him.
I'm telling you, you
I'd like
need
to
a
see that
wall.
happen.
You can't
Nikki Haley
trust
raped me.
politicians to do this. If the wall's there, it's a physical fact of life, and it's a huge
Thank you,
step to
Governor
restoring
DeSantis.
this country's
Thank you, Governor
sovereignty.
DeSantis. Governor Haley?
Go to DeSantisLies.com. I said you can't just build a wall. You have to do more than build a wall. It was having the wall and everything else.
You have to build a bear.
You can't trust what Ron's saying. But this is a bigger issue. This is more than him just constantly being desperate and throwing things on me. This is the fact that we have to realize my parents came here.
People are desperate. They throw themselves
They came
on
the
her.
right way 50 years ago.
They need a
They
wall.
put in
Don't
the
they have
time, they put
drones?
in the price. They are offended
Right.
by what's happening on the border. And my mom would always
Those
say,
are all
if
in
they
Ukraine.
don't follow the laws to come into this country, they won't follow the laws when they are in this country. And we have to start treating this like it is. This is putting harm on our schools, on our hospitals.
She's a person of color, by the
Taxpayers are
way. I
paying
didn't
for it. You
realize that
see,
till
these
not long
mayors are
ago.
now upset about it. The
What
only
color?
reason Eric Adams is now
Dark
upset.
white.
Why? He
she's
shouldn't be a
Indian.
sanctuary city then. That's why we have to defund sanctuary cities. Now,
Her
Governor
name
Abbott
is
finally
Nimrata
did to them
Randhawa.
what's been
That's
happening
her
to
actual
Texas
name.
for so long. We've
like
got to put
beige.
an end to this. It's dangerous, and it doesn't even count the fentanyl that's
Governor
coming across.
DeSantis.
You, Governor Nimrata.
There are more than 10 million undocumented immigrants
Tapper's
already living in the
handkerchief
United
matches
States,
his tie.
according to Pew Research. Will any of them
What
be
a
allowed to
fag.
stay in the United States under your administration?
The number of people that will be amnestied when I'm president is 0. We cannot do an amnesty in this
He's
country.
jerking somebody off.
First of all, it's going to do is cause more people to want to come illegally. So you got to enforce the law. It's got to be consistent. People got to know it's there. You also have to remove benefits for people who are here illegally. You know, California, you can go illegal alien and you get free health insurance coverage.
You can
You're
go
here
illegal
illegally
alien
they're
and
doing
get
that.
free health
We
insurance.
should not let states.
All right, well, let's
provide
go
these
illegal
benefits.
alien
You know,
then.
in Florida, obviously, we don't do that. We don't allow the driver's license and all that. But some states do, and it creates a magnet for people coming in. So federally, no benefits, no enticements to come in. And then the states, we're going to crack down on sanctuary states and sanctuary cities.
Day
and I
one.
showed the hypocrisy of all this back in 2022, because we have a program to transport illegal aliens to sanctuary jurisdictions. And one of the places we sent 50 to, beautiful, liberal Martha's Vineyard. And you know what? These are folks that were on their high horse, saying how they were a sanctuary jurisdiction, saying nobody's illegal, all refugees are welcome. That's what they had in their town. The minute even 50 came up, they called a state of emergency and deported them off the island the next day. How do you think Texas feels? How do you think all these other communities feel that are being overwhelmed? So we cannot have liberal elites in this country imposing policies on the rest of us that they are not willing to deal with the consequences of themselves.
Governor Haley, by the
He's like a
when you're
kid who's
president,
constantly
will
on the
any
brink of a
the more than
tantrum.
10 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. be allowed to stay in the country under your administration?
You have to deport them. And the reason you have to deport them is they're cutting the line. You've got people who have done this and tried to go through the right way. You can't have them go and jump the line and suddenly do
They
that.
brought
And
all
that is
these people
actually
in
what will
just
get
so
them
that they
to
can
stop
debate
coming,
about them to get
is
them
when
out
they
now,
do
or what?
realize they get to the
They
wall
should
and they
bring
have
up
to turn
like
around
more
and go
Jerry
back.
Springer, like bring
It's
up
a
some of these
dangerous
illegal
process
immigrants.
of what happens
Yeah.
for them to try
Have them
and migrate
prove they'll
here.
deport
But when
them.
I was at the United Nations and we had this, which is another reason why we need to have Trump here defending himself and talking
Just
about what he would do
name-dropping when I
going
was
in the
at the
future,
United
I was
because
just
it's a
thinking
problem.
that. Yeah.
I was on the ground in Honduras and Guatemala. And what we saw is a lot of the reason why they were coming from there is because of gangs and drugs. And so what we did was
Our
we
gangs
had
and our
our
drugs.
military go and train them on how to
Come to
deal
America
with
for more
gangs.
gangs
Yeah.
and
We
drugs.
went and put drug boats on the water to keep the drugs from coming. But we said, you have to have them
Drug
processed
boats.
from here. You can't have them come. We were able to stop that flow. We've got to go back to do that. But we
Stop
need
that
to end it
flow.
once and for all. Donald Trump didn't do that. That's why he needs to be here debating on the stage right now.
Governor,
America's
thank you. Let's turn to
Nikki.
foreign policy. You have
It
expressed
does.
different visions for how the U.S. should approach the international conflicts.
Welcome,
and I want to
Mr.
start
President.
with Ukraine. It's been
You
nearly
know, I was
2
just
years since
trying to be
Russia
polite.
invaded Ukraine, and there is still no end in sight to that war. Governor Haley, you say that this is a, quote, war about freedom that Ukraine must win. Governor DeSantis says, quote, we need to bring this war to an end. Do you believe he shares your commitment to a Ukrainian victory?
Nobody knows what he believes because when President Obama was in office, he supported foreign aid to Ukraine. Now he's copying Trump and trying to act like he doesn't want to support Ukraine.
They're
But
talking
let me
like
tell you why Ukraine
that's a
should
good
matter.
thing.
First of all, I don't think we should give cash to any country, friend or foe,
To
because
be
you
all
can't follow it, you
pro-Ukraine.
can't hold it accountable. I don't think we need to put troops on the ground, and Ukrainians want to win this themselves.
Yeah, they got to have a commercial
But
break sometime
dictators
soon.
always do what they say they're going to do. China said they were going to take Hong Kong.
Wonder
They
who's
did.
sponsoring this.
Russia
Which
said they
drug
were going to
company?
invade Ukraine. We watched
CNN,
it.
Pfizer.
China says Taiwan is next. We better believe them. Russia said once they take Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Those are NATO countries, and that puts America at war. This is about preventing war. It's always been about preventing war. If we support Ukraine, that's only 3.5% of our defense
We have
budget.
wars to
Biden
prevent
and no one
wars.
else is telling
Don't
the
you guys
American
get
people the
it?
truth
That's how you
about
stop
that.
wars.
The
is
Europeans have put in
you
more
start
than that, and they should.
How
It's
you
their
inflict
neighborhood.
peace.
But this is a pro-American, freedom-loving country.
violently.
And we better remember that you have to be a friend to get a friend. And we needed a lot of friends September 12th. We've got to make sure that we're having the backs of the right friends, because if Russia wins, China wins. There's a reason the Taiwanese
so full of it.
want us to help the Ukrainians. And that's because they know if Ukraine wins, China won't invade Taiwan.
Now,
This is
Vivek
about
would be ripping
preventing
her
war.
apart.
Governor
Well,
DeSantis.
Ripping her apart. Yeah.
I supported Trump's policy vis-a-vis Russia, Ukraine, and it was successful.
He needs to show his
Um,
hands
you know,
because
the Biden policy
There
has
we
not
go.
been, but Nikki Haley
Yeah,
is
Trump
basically
always
a
shows his
carbon
hands,
copy
at
of what
least.
Biden
Yeah.
is. It's an open-ended
In a more
commitment.
controlled
They
fashion.
want
He has
another
people.
$108 billion.
Did Russia
They will
actually
not
say that they
tell
were going
you
to take
when
Baltics and Poland
they've
next?
achieved
I
their
don't
goal.
remember this.
And this
I
is gonna
don't
go on
think so.
maybe hundreds of
I think
billions
that's a
more into the
presumption.
future. I think a lot of people have died. We need to find a way to end this, because our priorities for national security, of course, the border, which we talked about, and people like Nikki Haley care more about Ukraine's border than she does about our own southern border, which is wrong. But we also have to look at what's the top threat to this country. It's the Chinese Communist Party. We are not doing what we need to do to have adequate hard power in the Indo-Pacific. And
Yeah,
here's
they're
the
really
thing.
pushing the China
We
enemy, aren't
don't
they?
have enough resources being
definitely the
$35 trillion
World War III
in
push.
debt to continue doing hundreds of billions of dollars.
figure out if
we got to
China's
focus
friend or
on
foe
our
at this
issues
point.
here at home, and we've got to
Friend
deal
to
with
Haley,
the top threat that
according
we
to this
face,
guy.
which is China.
And
And then I
took
wonder
suits.
why you raised the debt when you were in Congress, because we're all paying for that. What I will tell you is this is the lie they're telling the American people
Is there a
over and
pearl
over again.
clutch
It
coming
is
up?
so wrong to say this. They're saying
Hope
you have
so.
to choose between Ukraine or
Feeling it.
Israel and securing the border. Supporting Ukraine is 3.5% of our budget.
She's
I
just
don't
a
want cash going, it's
mouthpiece. I mean,
equipment
groceries are
and it's
$80
ammunition.
just to get
If
like
we
a
support
water and
Ukraine
horseshoes.
and Israel,
I know.
She's just
that's
here
only
pitching,
5% of
fucking
our
giving all our
defense
money to
budget.
Ukraine.
So you're
we
gonna borrow
support-
that?
If we support Ukraine, Israel, and secure the border,
And we
that's less
fuck
than
all everybody at home.
20% of Biden's green subsidies. You do not have to choose when it comes to national
That's why they
security. This is
did
about
not let
keeping
Vivek in this
Americans
debate,
safe. This
because
is
he
about
wouldn't let this
preventing
shit
war.
just
This
go
is about
without
keeping our
calling
military
out.
men and women from
People
having
don't
to
want
fight a
this.
war. And you
Well,
only
they
do
just keep
that
saying the
when
same
you focus
thing
on
over and
national
over and
security,
over and
not
over
telling
and
lies
over
to the
and
Yeah.
American people that they have to choose. That is wrong. That's never been
He
the
was
case.
sent on a mission to go advocate for
She-
Ukraine.
She doesn't articulate how
Look,
this
he
comes
keeps
to an
reaching
end,
his arms
except she
over.
was asked after the last debate by, I believe, Megyn Kelly, and she said, you bring it to an
The
end
one with the
by
black
bringing
eyes or
Ukraine
wherever.
into NATO. But of course, we're a NATO country. So if you bring Ukraine into NATO, that puts the United States at war. Megan said that to her.
I think
and
if
then
you
she basically
identified
gave
as a
word
woman, you have
salad,
a real
as
shot,
to how you go from there.
Mr. President.
So they have sent cash.
agree.
She supports this
Donald
$106
Trump.
billion that they're trying to get through Congress.
Going up against
Where's some of that
Mike
money go? They've
Obama.
done tens of billions of dollars to pay salaries for Ukrainian government bureaucrats. They've paid pensions for Ukrainian retirees with your tax dollars. We've got
She wants
homeless
to call him a
veterans.
pussy,
We have
you
all
can
these
tell
problems.
by the look on
This
her
is the
face.
UN way of thinking, that we're somehow globalists and we have unlimited resources to do. You know, I think here's the problem. You can take the ambassador out of the United Nations, but you can't take the United Nations out of the ambassador.
He's been waiting to drop that one. He's right.
Oh,
He
that's
is
going to go
right.
down in history.
First of all, I have never said that we should give salaries or benefits or anything else to Ukrainians. I have said it again, Ron, so stop lying.
supported the
So you go,
DeSantis
I did not
eyes.com.
support the aid package. I support equipment and ammunition going to Ukraine. I think it is incredibly important that we're honest and say we have to focus on national security. Don't go and lie to the American people to make them think we can't do this. You turn around and raise the debt limit. You're the one that's talked about look at what you did to Florida. But think about
You know,
the
she's
fact
like on
that
those
he's talking about
cocaine eye
where's this money
drops.
going to come from.
Cocaine eye
The best way to
drops?
tell about a
She is
candidate
on
is
something.
to see how they've run their campaign. He has blown through $150 million. I don't even know how you
She's
do that.
blown through the
Through
UN.
his campaign, he has nothing to show for it.
Right-o.
He spent more money on private planes than he has on commercials trying to get Iowans to vote for him. If you can't manage a campaign, how are you going
wonder
to
how much
manage a
she's
country?
spent.
Which is exactly
Well,
right.
listen, I'm proud that in the state of Florida, we're ranked #1 for economy of all 50 states by CNBC, #1 for
Highest cost of
education.
living.
She was ranked number 50 in
Highest-
education when she was governor of
highest
California.
insurance, Governor
And of
Haley,
course,
he
she
has the
wasn't
floor.
able to do school choice.
God, they
She didn't
need them to
deliver
just,
big
like,
Took 'em a
budget
while-
cuts.
it took 'em a
We're
while
also
to get in on
#1
that
for
one.
net in-migration,
I wanna see a cat
#1 for
fight.
GDP growth amongst large states. #1
see some
for
hair
talent
fly.
development, #1 for new business formations, and on
I
and
think
on it
DeSantis
goes.
would gain
So the
voters if
success
he
we've
just
had in Florida, I can
backhanded
cite
her.
the statistics. It's important, but just look how people are voting with their feet. They're leaving California, they're leaving Illinois, New York, all these states, and they're coming to Florida in record
think she's
numbers
got longer
because we're
reach
doing it
than
right.
him.
And not only have I cut taxes,
You might not
big
be able
time,
to,
where
you're
she
right.
didn't,
Yeah.
and governor of
She's
South
got that
Carolina,
pen ready.
we've paid down
probably
25% of our state's
a
debt.
bullet
she's
pen.
got
That's how
this
you
real-
manage
she's
the
got a
third
real
largest
relationship
state in
with
this
this pen.
country. Just imagine if we could do that for the United States of America.
She probably
thank you.
loves
Let's
it more
stay
than
on
her
foreign
family.
Policy. I want to turn to the
loaded.
Israel-Hamas war. You both have said that you
Okay.
unequivocally
I guess
support
I'm not
Israel.
gonna go to
You're
commercial
for
break
the complete
soon.
elimination of Hamas.
Here
Governor
we go.
DeSantis, there are real
Yeah,
disagreements
here we go.
within Israel about how to handle what happens in Gaza after the war against Hamas is over. Some Israeli cabinet officials are pushing for the mass removal of Palestinians from Gaza. Governor Haley told CNN last week she does not support that. Do you?
So we got to support Israel in word and in deed, in public and in private. And they need to be able to finish the job. Joe Biden is kneecapping them. He'll say one thing, then he goes, and his base doesn't like Israel, so he's got to do all these other things. This is a time to recognize that they suffered the most deaths of Jews, murder of Jews since the Holocaust. Hamas wants a second Holocaust. They want to annihilate the state of Israel. So I think to be a good ally, you back them in the decisions that they're making with respect to Gaza. Look, there's a lot of pluses and minuses with how you're doing this. But for us to be sitting in Washington, second guessing them, I don't think that's the right way. We also have a disagreement, Governor Haley and I. And when she was at the UN, she supported the idea of a two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinian Arabs. The problem with that is the Palestinian Arabs don't recognize Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. So doing a two-state solution doesn't create something that's going to
None of
lead
this
to a
debate
lasting
is for
peace. It creates a stepping
people
stone
who are gonna
for
be
Israel's
voting for them.
destruction. So under
It's
no
for
circumstances,
national,
as president,
international
am I going to
policy.
pressure Israel?
Yeah, it's just all about the
to
social
risk
climate.
their security
Yeah,
to do a
isn't it?
so-called two-state solution. She was wrong when she embraced
Say something so that we
and
can
we're right to
hold it
say
against you
we
later.
trust Israel to make these decisions.
Yep.
They're a good ally of
This is
ours.
on
We
videotape.
should trust their judgment on these sensitive issues.
Governor DeSantis, 15 seconds.
We see him licking his
15
lips
second
and doing a little bit of blow,
clarification.
maybe.
Do you support the mass removal of Palestinians from Gaza?
So as president, I am not going to tell them to do that. I think there's a lot of issues with that.
They always
But if they
frame it
make
like
the
that.
calculation that to avert a second Holocaust, they need to do that. I think some of these Palestinian Arabs, Saudi Arabia should take
Thank
some.
you.
Egypt should take some.
It's like
They've
they don't
never
even
been
consider
willing
the
to accept
answer.
any of these
Thank you,
folks.
Governor.
Maybe we should
Thank you,
stay
Governor.
out of
Governor
things.
Haley?
It is such a
Well,
loaded
first of all, we
question.
need to understand the
Yeah, it
reason
is.
we need to support Israel is Israel's a bright spot in a tough
These are
neighborhood.
softballs for
They are
Haley
the
and her
tip of the
donors.
spear when
I
it
know.
comes to defeating terrorism. It has never been that Israel needs America. It has always been that America needs Israel. When I was at the United Nations,
Then,
I fought
then why are we
every
giving
day
them
for
380
Israel.
billion a
And
year?
if you
Yeah.
would have listened to what I said at the United Nations, a two-state solution wasn't something that was possible because Israel would always come to the table and the Palestinians wouldn't. But right now, we have to make sure that Israel has the support that it needs. There should be three things. Give Israel whatever it wants to get the job done. 2, eliminate Hamas once and for all. And 3, do whatever it takes to bring the hostages home. But it's really rich.
They're
that
not
Ron
even
is gonna
giving
act
good
like he's
sound
something
bites.
that cares for Israel when he brought the person to Iowa that's the most
Say that again, Mr. President.
anti-Israel
Give them as much
Republican in the
money,
state, the
boots
person that
on the
went
ground,
and
and
voted
military
against Israel's
equipment.
right to
That's
exist
what it
in
sounds like
Congress.
she's
The person that
advocating
voted
for.
with the squad against anti-Semitism on college campuses.
Thank you, Governor.
And you brought that
Thank
person
you, Governor.
to Iowa to go and campaign with you. If
Governor,
that's your friends,
Governor
I'd hate
DeSantis
to
Thank you,
see
is
you
Governor.
obviously
as your
referring
friends.
to
Anti-Semitism, we
Congressman
can't
Tom
talk
Massey from
anymore.
that's cheap garbage. But here's the thing: when the attacks happened against Israel,
Yeah, just
I knew it
call
was
her
gonna
a
be big deal
bitch,
for Florida. We
DeSantis.
have
People
one of
will
the
love you
largest
for it.
Israeli American populations in the country, and we've been a haven for Orthodox Jews in particular since I've been governor. And you know what?
Do you have
Biden
any
wasn't helping
tunnels?
Americans get out of
No.
the war zone. These are
Can't.
people that were
Close
stranded.
to sea
So
level.
I did an
That's
executive
true.
order. We
Flood.
scrambled planes, and we rescued over 700 Americans from Israel and brought them back safely
Why
to the
does it
state of
keep
Florida.
glitching?
You got to step up and you
It's
got to
so
lead
weird.
when things like this are
Yeah,
happening.
that's a
We
terrible
also have gone
background.
after the anti-Semitism
gotta
on our
wonder-
campuses.
yeah,
we did
I
that
don't know.
early in my
There's probably
administration.
Some sort of
people
We didn't see
subliminal
our
thing
college
going on
with
there.
presidents doing
guns
some of
pointed
the
to their
things that
head
you've
if
seen.
the
I
green
just announced in
screen
the State
image
of the
went
State
down.
address yesterday or 2 days ago that we are going to say, and not just for Jewish students, anyone who's having religious being persecuted or being marginalized because of their faith in any college around the country, we're going to waive the transfer requirement so that people can come to Florida and be safe. What they are doing to these
Thank you,
Jewish
Governor.
students
So
has been
he's doing
reprehensible, and
a
we're not going to let it
affirmative
happen.
action of sorts.
They're acting like
There are
school
growing fears
ties
of this
is
war
going on
escalating
all
into a
over the
broader
place.
regional conflict. And
What
Governor
happened to school ties,
yesterday,
Mr. President?
U.S. Navy shot down 21
Kid
missiles
moves
from
into like
Iranian-backed
a
militants
really
in the
rich
sea.
white
Iranian-backed
school. He's
militants are
Jewish.
now also attacking
Oh, yeah.
And he
Lebanon
gets
and West
discriminated
Syria,
against.
Go
Syria,
home, Jew, all
and
that
Iraq.
stuff.
You're
Wasn't
so-
Ben Affleck and Matt Damon both in that movie?
I think so.
The U.S. to conduct
Your
retaliatory
pop culture
strikes
knowledge, Mr.
inside
President, is
Iran would
You know,
Outstanding.
I watched a
unmatchable.
lot of movies, Brad. A lot of
Well, first
movies.
of all, notice Ron didn't say anything about the fact that he
Probably
did bring
funded
the
a few,
most
I would imagine, Mr.
anti-Israel
President.
Republican into this state.
I've been in a few
to
too,
campaign.
you know.
He
I'm
also
alone too.
told you that the only Republican Jewish state legislator left his campaign because he wasn't dealing with the neo-Nazi
The question is
marches
just like
and wasn't
provoking
dealing with
war.
anti-Semitism
Would you
properly.
retaliate?
When it comes to
And
Iran,
to Iran,
what we
against
have to
Iran?
understand, there would be no Hamas without Iran. There would not be Houthis without Iran. There wouldn't be
This is
Hezbollah
just
without
such
Iran. And
a
when you look at the strikes that are happening in
showcase
Iraq
for
and
Nikki
Syria,
Haley. It's
that
all
is
this
because
is-
of Iran. They're pulling the puppet strings.
Yeah.
What we need to do is the idea
the
that
only
we had
one
over
that
130 strikes
he
on
can
our
look
men
good
and women
against.
in Iraq.
And
Well,
he's
he got
better than
shot
her,
right
but
on
he-
the tip of the
We're
spear.
supposed to have their back.
Yeah.
And Biden has been slow. He's been hiding in a corner and he hasn't dealt with it. We need to go and take out every bit of the production that they had that's allowing them to do those strikes. It's hugely important that we do that. And you can't do that if you have a Secretary of Defense that is in ICU and the president doesn't even know about it. What bothers me is
She's
how
just all
does
about
Biden not talk
peaceful
to his Secretary
provocation.
of Defense every single day, knowing that we have a war in Europe, a war in the Middle East, that we have our American military with strikes going
I
on.
dislike
and we've
her
got
with
brain
every word that
injuries.
comes
My
out of her
husband is
mouth.
deployed right now. As
You
a
know,
military
someone should tell
spouse, the
Nikki you
idea
can't
that the
hug
Secretary of
people with
Defense
nuclear
would not
arms.
even be in contact with the president, much less in contact with his staff, is unforgivable.
Governor DeSantis.
It's a very good message to take away, Mr. President.
After the attacks against Israel, anyone with
Why
half
do
a
these
brain
set
knows
designs
Iran is
always
behind
look like
this.
they're
They
on a
fund Hamas,
spaceship?
they fund Hezbollah.
I'll tell you,
we did a special
the
session in
reason
the
it looks
legislature
so
down in
low
Florida. We
budget
expanded
tonight is
sanctions
nobody
against
paid
Iran.
for
We're on country to be
advertising
the
in this.
14th
Except
largest
CNN.
economy in the
Yeah,
world.
CNN paid
And
for
no
it.
commercials, yeah.
Biden came into office
Because there's a
and
lot
he
of green
relaxed the
screens involved with
sanctions on
NASA,
Iran. They've
Ian.
had massive
And
amounts
take it
of
down
money
for a second.
flooding
That
into
is
their country,
interesting,
just like under
Mr.
the Obama.
President, because they had commercials and all of the other ones that had multiple candidates so they could stop people from saying things they didn't want them to. But now that they have just Nikki and just DeSantis and Jake Tapper, then
See the
they are
look?
giving her all of this airtime
Well, I
to say all of her
understand what
bullshit to
our
her
military
donors
goes through.
and the
I would
globalists.
never put
Yeah,
our
and he's
troops
the one that they're
on display
treating like
what Biden is
Vivek
doing in the
this
Middle
time.
East.
All right, that's enough. That's
Hey,
enough.
shut him up.
Thank you. You've said enough.
You're gonna sit him in the corner.
Anti-Semitism. Thank you.
He has hell to pay. He's leaving them out to dry, and I think it's disgraceful for a commander-in-chief to do
Thank
that.
you, Governor. The CNN Republican presidential debate live from Des Moines, Iowa. We'll be right back after this.
That
Go to
was
CNN.com for real-time
45
debate analysis.
minutes before
Stay
a
with us.
commercial break.
Wow.
What a great point you just
Ooh.
made, Mr. President. Because this is, you have two candidates here. So the commercial breaks aren't going to take away as much as they would have previously, but they just want to feature this bitch, Nikki Haley. So what are your thoughts, whether it's the production, the moderators, the candidates, the staging, as you mentioned a moment ago, Ian, the backgrounds, everything. Just first thoughts on the first really long segment of that debate.
It sounds, I mean, there's what, 30 people in that audience, you think? 50 at the most?
No, they're all Nikki Haley donors.
Yeah, and I mean, how many of them are real? Because when you hear them clap, it's like a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They have
And
a, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it always starts with the same thing, the whoo, like the same guy getting them going, you know.
One
like
guy
they're
in the back.
they're doing
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
That's
You know, I thought the same thing watching Kimmelman the other day.
Kimmelman?
Yeah, Kimmelman, that little chode.
Kimmelman.
Jimmy Kimmelman.
I mean, Jimmy Kimmelman?
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmelman.
Okay.
Kimmel.
Yeah, so you thought that was a fake audience to Jimmy Kimmel when he was bashing Aaron Rodgers. Jimmy Kimmel, who would vote for Nikki Haley, I think, the way that he's.
You know, Aaron Rodgers is a good man. He's a really good man. I like him a lot. He's a good boy, good American boy. I don't appreciate that Jimmy Kimmel going after him so hard and begging him to apologize to him in public.
Yeah, sounds like that really touched a nerve.
You know, it did, Brad, because, you know, like Kimmel comes after me a lot, too, and I don't need a team of all-female writers in order to do my clapbacks, you know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah, he's got those very obviously written by women clapbacks that he has. Stella, were you saying that maybe DeSantis seems a bit perhaps not into men? Is that what is that what that means?
No.
Right, what does that mean?
I wouldn't have a clue what his preferences are.
I wouldn't either, but
I wouldn't like to speculate either.
you know, I was thinking about these two people, and they do all this opposition research. The stuff they must know about each other.
Oh, it's just a play. I can't get past that. It's still just a play. They know what they're about to say. They've probably even had a little dry run over a nice dinner somewhere.
Yeah, that's why I can't believe this whole I think the DeSantis lies thing is really. First of all, I'm also bored out of my mind watching these two.
It is terrible, terrible.
And I don't know, you know what? Maybe I should be more interested. Maybe my serotonin has been, you know, just jacked up watching Biden and Trump and all the chaos and watching two people who are just talking to each other, you know, heatedly, vehemently, but.
Yeah, but they're saying these. They're delivering
boring.
clear talking points.
Yeah, but it's just talking points. There's no authenticity. It's just boring. It's just boring.
There's a possibility that could be a contrived thing as well, because you've got these really colourful characters that are so easy to hate that, you know, people love to hate them or hate to love them or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then along come the next crew, which are all just boring. So everybody just tunes out, you know, which is pretty much what they want, so they can get all this other stuff passed.
Yeah, this is definitely not for the voters. It's for the big money that they're trying to harness together. Vivek made a video saying he thinks that DeSantis is going to be asked to be Nikki Haley's running mate and that they'll team up together. I don't know if that'll happen. Maybe. In the comments, Denver says that Dana Bush's face is the perfect shape of an almond, like a green alien or something. And we've seen these glitches, like the They Live glasses. Like you put those on, I feel like that's happening.
Well, that's they want to keep. They don't want to show the lizard people.
Yeah. I feel Denver that she's more of a shovel face. Mr. President,
you know, there's a lot of those shovel faces around. They're long, they're thin, they're pointy.
That's right.
Do you think there's a connection between shovel? You think there's a connection between shovel faces and maybe some sort of alien that's in disguise or something?
You're, you know, Ian, I don't know if my tinfoil hat's screwed on as tight as yours is these days.
Okay. All right.
That's even too conspiratorial for the former president. So are you intimidated by either one of these candidates, Mr. President? They seem to be trying to position Nikki Haley to somehow steal away the nomination from you.
I mean, if she's going to steal it away, she needs to jump about 40 points ahead in the polls.
Just a little bit, yeah.
You know, ever since I decided to keep my mouth shut, I've gone up 50 points.
What about those pearls? You ever worn a pearl necklace like that?
I've given plenty of pearl necklaces out there.
What is the role of government, and should
Sure you have.
it use its power to go after businesses and private entities that take actions that don't align with conservative values? Governor DeSantis, you used your powers in Florida to take on Disney after the company criticized
So he did a
an
great
education
job,
bill that you
actually,
signed into
of
law.
helping stop the ESG
How
stuff.
does that
DeSantis
square with the
did.
traditional
The
conservative
Disney
view
stuff's really
that small,
interesting. You know,
limited
Bill
government
Donovan had a
is
lot to
best?
do with Disney.
The proper
getting
role
that,
of government, if
Bill
it does
Donovan.
anything, it's to protect.
He was
our kids.
the
I've
creator
stood
of
for
the
innocence
Central
of our
Intelligence
kids.
Agency.
It is wrong. It is wrong to sexualize.
But he
and
helped them
enrich.
get
It's
that
wrong
law
to-
so that
my
they
wife
can
and I, we've got a
basically
first
be
grader,
lawless
kindergartner, and a
in Disneyland.
preschooler. This is something that's important to us personally. It's wrong to tell a kindergartner, like Disney wanted to do, that you can change your gender, or tell a third grader that you're born in the wrong body. So I stood up against, the media didn't like it, the left didn't like it, and Disney didn't like it, and they're the 800-pound gorilla in the state of Florida. Most
Not
people, most corporate
to be confused with
Republicans
Chris
would have
Christie.
caved. I stood and I fought for the
He's
kids.
in New Jersey.
We took on Disney and we defeated
Stacey
that,
Abrams,
and we won that
you were
fight.
there?
And our kids are better
Georgia,
off.
yeah.
Now, Nikki Haley sided with Disney. She invited them to South Carolina, even
likes
though they were
800-pound
involved in
gorillas.
transing kids. That is
Clearly.
not what we need to do. But I think that's similar.
Nikki
She
Haley's a
is
Democrat,
representative of this
basically.
Would
corporatist
Disney
element,
World
of
in
the
North
party.
Carolina
For
be
example,
Disney
she
Place?
supported $900 million in subsidies.
Would it be
to
Disney
Boeing
Place
when
in
she
North
was
Carolina?
South Carolina. And then when she
Yeah,
got
you know, you
out
got
of
Disney
office,
World,
she took a seat on
Disneyland.
their board, and she made millions of
Disney
dollars.
Place.
There used to be
Then she gave
Disney Village.
speeches,
It's
paid
long gone,
speeches to a
though.
lot of Wall
Trans
Street interests,
Disney.
didn't publish what she said. We don't know what she promised them. And she made millions of dollars doing that. Now they're the
Look
ones
at
that are
her
funding her
smug
campaign.
look on
So
her
we need to
face.
stand
She's got a
up for the
one-liner up her
people,
sleeve.
Yeah, she does.
and not bow down
She
to
gets
woke
that look.
corporations. And we know Nikki Haley will cave to the woke
It's the
mob
same look
every
she gets
single
when she
time.
straps on her dildo before she
Haley,
pegs her
response?
husband.
Government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never meant to be all things to all people. And what we don't need is government politicizing anything. The first thing I'll say is, again, DeSantisLies.com, because I have never said
DeSantisThies.
anything
Does
related
somebody
to the
own that?
transgender
Because
stuff he
if, you,
says. I
if
have
they
always
don't, you
fought
need
to
to buy
protect
it
kids.
immediately.
I've always said that boys need to go into boys'
I
bathrooms,
think her team
girls
is
need to go
updating
in
it
girls' bathrooms, that we
constantly.
shouldn't have any gender transitions before the age of 18. Just like we don't have tattoos before the age of 18, we shouldn't have gender transformation or puberty blockers.
says?
But I will tell you
I
that
bet
it's
she's
really
got the devil
interesting
as
that
a
Ron
tramp
talks
stamp.
about this Disney, because Disney has been woke for a long time. They were against the immigration situation that Trump was doing. They were against the Paris Climate Agreement when I did it. They were against the pro-life bill in Georgia. Ron didn't have any problem with that. As a matter of fact, he gave them the largest corporate subsidies in Florida history. He had a tech exemptions that he didn't give any tech exemptions to anybody but Disney. Yet when they went and criticized him, he got thin skin and suddenly started to fight back.
Oh, he didn't like
we
being
don't
called
need
that.
government fighting against our private industries. We are not woke in South Carolina. I will always invite businesses to come to South Carolina. But the one thing
These-
you don't do
these
is
two are just
government doesn't bully our businesses.
not
And that
good
can't
at
happen.
this.
And Ron is determined.
No, they're
Anybody
super
that
boring.
offends him,
Governor.
he goes
So-
after them and
Thank
he'll
you,
use
Governor.
government.
Governor
Just said,
Yeah,
Something
it's a
needs
bit
to
like a-
happen. Like a light needs to fall.
Yeah,
Something.
right, something.
Something.
A streaker needs to run
Yeah,
up on stage.
streaker or something.
Slap
needs to
Nikki in the
happen.
face with whatever Ron.
Ah, so boring.
Get some aliens in the studio.
She caved to the Chamber
That's
of
why I
Commerce
want
and
him just to
corporate. She said
reflexively
she's
just
against the
cold cock
surgeries
her
for
or
minors.
something. Get
That
me
wasn't what she
smashed
said
it.
this summer. She was asked about it. It's
Oh
on
my
video.
gosh.
Keep
I'm going
saying
to have a
that.
drink every time
Stay
she
out
says
of it. I
DeSantisLies.com.
criticized her in the last
Oh, you
debate. She
should have
took a lot
mentioned
of
that a
heat.
long
So then
time
she's
ago.
flipped and said that there now should be the law involved.
I think
She
there's
said
plenty
she
more
supports the
coming.
Federal law. I'm glad she's come to the right thing. But here's the deal. It goes back to that young kid in the town hall that she had, where he said, Nikki Haley, you are the new John Kerry. You're for it before you are against it.
You hear that hesitation in
You
that?
know, John Kerry's got a gigantic head.
It's a
He
shame
does.
that we had
He's
to
like
put up
Frankenstein.
DeSantisLies.com.
Yeah, there's a whole community
Honestly,
that lives
if he
on
would
his
spend
forehead.
as much
John
time
Kerry.
trying to prove
John
why
Kerry.
he thinks he
John
would be a good
Kerry.
president,
He
he
shot
would be
himself.
doing a
Climate
lot better in the
change.
polls. The reason that he spent and blown through $150 million and gone down in the polls is
Now,
because
right
he
there,
spent more time trying to lie about me
DeSantis
than he
says
is
she's
about
blown
telling the
through
truth
every
about
dude at
himself.
the
I
UN.
have
Like that's a
never
line.
said-
It's a
I have
being
never
teed up for
said
him.
that we should have any gender
Yeah, I don't know why he doesn't take advantage of that.
operations or surgeries. You're lying about that.
Governor Haley has
When
the
it
floor.
comes to the bathroom bill, I will say, first of all,
Bathroom
that
bill.
was 10
I'm going to
years
send
ago.
you
We
a
had
bathroom
handful
bill.
of kids that may have had that issue.
Bathroom
And what
bill
I
is
made
what-
Here's your
very
bathroom
clear
bill.
at that time
What
That's
you
was
get
that
after you
girls
spend a
go
few
into
minutes in the
girls'
bathroom
bathrooms,
with
boys
you.
He
go into
doesn't
boys'
have a
bathrooms.
square,
If there are any
not
other
a square to
exceptions,
spare.
they use a private bathroom. I have fought for women's sports and making sure that
you
biological
fought for
boys
women's
are not
sports?
women's
You're a
sports, and I'll
boxer? What do
continue
you-
to do that.
She's
I
the
have
boxer
always
trans
said
woman.
we have to raise
Or she
strong
fought-
girls. Strong girls become strong women.
I got into fights
Strong
to
women
make
become
sure
strong
women could have
leaders. None of that
sports.
happens if we have
Thank you, Governor.
biological boys.
And-
Governor Haley.
Where does she stand on the trans thing?
Medium strength guys become trans women.
South Carolina schools
As long as they're
ranked in the
over
bottom 10
18, I guess
nationwide
she's
in
cool.
both reading and math scores. Given that,
Jake
why
Tapper's
should
a
voters
cocksucker.
concerned about
Let me
K through
put
12
that out there.
education support you rather than other Republicans?
Because I think what we did was
'Cause I
we
got a
knew that there was
pussy
an issue. We
between
knew
my
that
legs.
when a child couldn't read by 3rd grade, they were 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So what we did is we started
So we
holding
just
kids
made-
back instead of
we just
pushing
made
them
15
forward.
grades
We brought in
instead
their
of
parents.
12.
We
We
did
just gave
reading
15
remediation,
grades.
and we set them up for
And then they
success.
were right
We've
back
got to do
online
that
where they're
all over our
learning.
country. We only have 31% of 8th graders in our country are proficient
Vote for
in
my
reading.
pussy.
27% of 8th graders are proficient in math. If we don't do something, we're going to be in a world of hurt 10 years from now. That's why I want to take as many federal programs from D.C. as we
I bet
can
she's the
and
worst
send
mother.
them down to the state level. Think education. We can move a lot of K through 12 programs down to the state level, reduce the strings that are attached, and that way states can handle it themselves. People in Iowa know best
Having to
what types of education
constantly
they
explain
need.
what's okay to
Secondly,
murder
parents
people
should
in other
decide
countries
what
to their
types of
kids.
education their children get,
Yeah.
what mode of education.
If San
And we should have
Francisco just
complete
wants to,
transparency in the classroom.
have all trans
no parent should
education,
ever wonder what's
they can
being
have it.
said or taught to their child in the classroom. That's why we'll have all
You
of the
get,
curriculums
subsidies if you're
online for
trans.
every
They have
parent
gender
to
switch
see.
day.
And we need to start putting vocational classes back
And
in our
Halloween,
high
y'all
schools.
pretend to be cis
Let's
people.
teach our kids
Uh-huh.
how to do things. We
Ooh,
did that in
that's
South
scary.
Carolina. We had apprenticeships. We taught our kids how to build the things we're making. When we start putting education back in the states and away from D.C., that's when we'll start to see that we're going back to the basics. We're doing what parents want, and we're doing what the industries
Thank
in
you,
that
Governor.
state need.
They do need
Governor
hype people,
DeSantis,
Ian, you're
I'm
right.
coming to you
Yeah,
They're
they
gonna have
need some
just
hype
these
people,
people.
man.
DeSantis, you have supported limits on what subjects can be taught and how, including American history, in
And
Florida
they need
schools.
some
You've
more
also made it
entertaining
easier
hosts.
to remove books from
It's a
public
Jake
school
Tapper.
libraries. You say you
Yeah,
want to,
he's
quote,
very-
make America Florida.
Yeah, like Kid
We
Rock.
want to implement those
They're very
Florida school
It's a
policies
Kid Rock.
nationwide.
I'll get to that in a sec. So, Nikki,
Ted
Yeah,
Nugent.
Kid Rock and Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan.
campaign for governor saying she was going to do school choice to be able to give private scholarships, particularly to low-income families. And she was governor and never did it. She caved to the teachers union. I delivered the
Just call it
biggest
like,
school choice
she's a
expansion
cunt.
in the
Just
history
do
of the
something
United
like
States.
that, DeSantis.
We've
Yeah.
Wake
beat the
everybody
teachers
up.
union. We've even done paycheck protection so that school unions, so that teachers aren't forced to do dues, and now they're choosing.
They're not
other
forced to
things.
do
Total
dues.
So we've done it right in
caver.
Florida, and the results speak for
You
themselves.
know, when they were
We have
talking
one of the
about
top performing fourth grade reading and math in the country,
making money,
and
not
we
other
just took
people's
our
money
charter
on
school
that.
population
I wonder
down
if any of them are going to
65,000
take
kids,
more than $1 to
disproportionately
do the
low
job.
income, racial ethnic minorities.
Like
They
you,
were
you,
their
Yeah.
you
own
just say
state.
$1.
They'd be in the top 5.
And they
in the
forced
Because
that
it was
dollar
all
on you.
about the money for me. I took $1 to do it.
They shoved it in your pocket when you
Yeah,
weren't looking.
they forced you to take $1, I
Kim
think.
Reynolds did that here in Iowa, who's endorsed me.
And then the
Nikki
Democrats
Haley
stole
did
it.
not. She failed. And if she can't do it in the reddest
They
probably
state,
taxed
they
that
were
dollar,
school
too.
choice.
Probably
They were
like
their
at 70
own
cents.
state. They'd be in the top 5 in performance.
I'm
Everyone
gonna
can
much higher
succeed,
tax
but you got to
bracket
have a
than that
leader
is.
who's going to fight the
That's
teachers
true.
unions and is going to deliver school choice. Governor Kim Reynolds did that here in Iowa, who's endorsed me. Nikki Haley did not.
Making the Iowa reference.
And if she can't do it in the
What'd she
reddest
say
Yeah, it's
earlier?
like when a
South
rock
Carolina,
band names
you're gonna be able to
the
succeed
city
in
they're in.
DC.
That's
Now,
what they
in
should
terms
be
of what we've
doing
done,
anyway.
We believe in empowering parents, and there's certain standards about
Nikki
what's
should-
age
they
and
should be like, I'm
developmentally
pro
appropriate.
corn.
It's wrong to have pornographic
I'll-
materials
Oh, here we
in
go.
4th or 5th grade. And you know what's happened? They'll go to school board meetings all around the country. They'll start reading it, and they say, oh, no, it's too graphic. You can't read it here. You can't put it on the 6 o'clock news. Well, if you can't,
Nikki
it's not
reads it all the
appropriate in a school
time.
board meeting,
Yeah.
You can't put on the 6 o'clock news.
He
Why are
should
you
just
jamming
start
it down
lying
the
so
throats
she's-
of a
It is
fourth
funny
grader?
that they bring it to these meetings, so they all have the pornographic material.
I know. I love
Bring
that.
it.
That's some of my favorite
Implement
videos.
Florida's education policies.
That and watching the
nationwide.
Stop
It
Oil
depends on the
people getting
policy.
dragged out of the
School choice,
streets.
Universal, yes. I don't want a nationalized curriculum.
I think it's fairly reflective that these kind of issues even get to this level.
Education, get that weight off the backs of
You
the
know,
state and
with
local
the
governments. But we are
sex
gonna
stuff
do
in the young
nationwide
kids'
scholarships.
schools. Like it
Yeah.
should have been stamped out long before this kind of
At the
thing.
local
That's gonna
level,
create
yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
You know, for
more data.
DeSantisLies.com, he's not saying that Russia's going to crush
I have fought
Ukraine
for
and
school
then
choice in
take
my
back
entire
Poland.
career because I think parents know their children
It-
best.
they seem to
and I
think that's a
we
good
should always
talking
do
point
that.
to be
That's why we
pro-Ukraine
passed
here.
charter
It's
school
not.
legislation in our state. That's why
Pretty
we
old, isn't
empowered
it?
homeschoolers in our state. That's why we changed the funding formula so we lifted up challenged areas without bringing down the wealthy areas. We wanted school choice. I had a Republican legislature that wouldn't do it, but we pushed hard to get that
This
done.
woman gets
That
up at the
doesn't
same
mean that we
time,
shouldn't do it across
exactly
the
every
country,
day,
but what we have to do is we
eats her
have to
meals
make
at the
it
exact same
state-centric.
time,
We've got to
every
get
day.
these programs down to the state level.
And then she
We've
does
got to
her
let
Kegel
the focus
exercises.
be on
She does her
teachers.
Kegel exercises,
Teachers right now have to
pegs
be
her husband
the
at the same
guidance
time every
counselors,
morning.
the pastors, the nurses, and everything in between. And oh, by the way,
The
they have
pearls
to
on.
teach to a test. That's not what teachers want. Teachers want to do what they were taught to do. And that means math, science, reading, history, English, arts.
That's what
it.
teachers want to do.
Schools can't be all things to all
I mean,
kids.
I
They
mean,
need to
judging
let
by
parents
the
parent.
articles I
They
see,
need to
what
let
teachers want to do is their
teach.
students.
And we need to go
Yeah, her
back
husband
to the basics in education so we
Spends
get
all day cooking a really nice meal. She comes home and goes, "Oh, I already ate,"
Knocks it
and
on
then
the
she
floor.
and she goes in her office and gets back to work.
Squats down, starts pissing on them.
Yeah.
If leadership's about getting things done, how did you blow through $150 million in your campaign and you were down in the polls?
So here's
you are not a
He
manager.
keeps saying blow
No,
through.
I think-
Very instructive
No.
about
You go to my
what-
website, nickie'sabitch.com.
I think I have the
Political advertising.
That would work.
She blows and he beats.
Yeah.
What if he just looked at her and was like,
NickieBlows.com.
"This time your ass all been in."
Governor Haley's time. Go ahead.
I think I hit a nerve. What I will tell you is, look, if you
blew a
can't
nerve.
manage
Yeah.
a campaign, it's been a
lot
revolving
of
door
nerves.
of political people in and out of his campaign. You've heard of campaign people going
did
to
he just do
blows
there
with
with
each
his
other
hands?
because they
I mean,
can't all
she's.
agree.
I'm gonna drink every.
$150
She also drink
million,
every time
and
she
he
says the word
spent more
blow.
on private planes
Loves
and
that word.
commercials.
I'd be on the
I flew
floor.
I flew
The
commercial.
many
I
times
stayed
she
in
said.
residence inns. We went and saved
You
our
know,
money. We
maybe
made sure
that's
we
why
spent it
she's
right
so
because you
hyped.
have to
She's been
understand it's
doing
not
blow
your
this
money.
whole time.
It's other
Yeah.
people's money, and
Did
you
she?
have
She
to
just
know how
said
to handle it.
she stayed
If
in
you can't
residence
handle the
in.
financial
Yeah,
parts
and
of
she
the
Say how
blows
economy,
people
common
there.
how are
she
you gonna handle
is.
the
That-
economy when it comes
exactly.
to the White House? And he goes and he's he has been demeaning
He has never
me
blown
over
anyone
and
in a
over
residence
again,
in.
telling
No, he goes
lies
in
to
the Ritz if he's gonna blow
SantaClaus.com
somebody.
because he
Okay,
thinks it
I
makes him look
predict there's
bigger.
going to be a
But in the one
headline.
basic
Nikki
thing,
dealt
you
a few
can't pay for
blows.
president in
All
one
right,
state, you're invisible
we're going to
in
see
New
that.
Hampshire, you're invisible
I
in
hope
South
so.
Carolina. You're in fifth place. You've got 150
What
Last
an
night was a
insult,
complete
though.
blow bang from
Why
Nikki
should
Haley.
we think you can manage or do anything in this country?
DeSantis beats his way back.
This is a great window
For the
into
children.
leadership because she focused on a lot of political process stuff, things that
If
no
you're the
voter cares
resident
about.
in, like the
And she
owner of
couldn't
Resident
tell
Inn, you're
you
like, what did
why
I
she
do?
failed to deliver school choice to people in her state after she promised it. So she says somehow that is the indicative of leadership is
Indicative.
about producing results. We've produced the results in Florida. We did universal school choice. We've cut taxes. We banned sanctuary cities. On and on down the line, everything I promised I delivered. She doesn't have a rationale for why she couldn't get it done. That is poor
Get it done.
leadership. You look at me,
You know,
everything I
DeSantis
promised I
has
would
really
do,
been
I've
trying to
delivered,
use those
and you can
SAT
expect nothing
words.
less when I'm the
Right.
president.
Those
of the United
SAT
States.
words you said?
Yeah, that's right. His SAT word.
Go ahead.
He's good at
So
that.
you want to talk about leadership, and he wants to go and demean and put down. Let me tell you what leadership is. Leadership is the fact that I went into South Carolina that had 11% unemployment rate.
fucked
Leadership
it in
is
the
the fact that we
ass.
turned it
I just
into
want her
an
to go
economic
full
powerhouse,
aggressive.
building
Yeah.
planes, building cars, building tires. We were named the beast
Building
of the
tires.
Southeast.
She's a tire
we moved
builder.
the 11%
Build back better.
unemployment down to 4%.
What's her name again?
We announced jobs in every
Nimrata
county in the state. We
Randhawa, the
moved
tire builder for
35,000
America.
people
You don't
on
build
welfare to
tires,
work.
you blow
They changed our
tires.
prison system to where we
blown a
now
lot
have
of
the
them up.
lowest recidivism
Mappa.
rate in the country. We passed
Yeah, what did
voter
she say?
ID.
Mappa.
We
What was
passed
it?
tort reform.
Make America
We did
proud
pension
again.
reform. We paid down our debt.
Yeah.
We cut taxes. We made sure that people were proud again. We did
Okay, here it is. All right,
years
this
like
is her
Vaughn.
thing.
So don't go and pick on school choice
Please
and say
put
that
on a
that's
Mappa
leadership.
hat.
When I got to the UN, we cut $1 billion off the top, and we took the kick me sign off of our backs, and America was respected again at the UN.
I wish
I
we
know
turn
what
around and
leadership
she has one right now. I wish she had one on her back right
That's what
now.
they picked me sign on the back for.
What a
Have
dork.
made central to your
Has she been
campaigns, and
saying
that
"Make
is
America
China.
Proud Again"
Governor
up
Haley,
until this
American
point?
farmers
I've never
were
heard it
hurt
until
by
today.
former
Okay,
President
so
Trump's
it's her
trade
thing
war
now,
with
yeah.
China. As a result, his administration paid out $28 billion in subsidies
husband
to
has a
farmers. You have vowed to
peg
be
me
even tougher than Donald Trump
sign
on
that she
China.
forces
If
him to
your
wear.
trade policies also end up hurting
Shovel
America's
face with a
farmers,
question.
are you prepared to cut a check just like he did?
Don't you
Well,
dig her
that's why
face?
Trump should be here on this debate stage. He should have to defend it. So first of all, I've said China is our #1 national security threat. I fought them every single day at
Personally,
the United
she
Nations.
fought all of China.
I know what they're capable of. The first thing we have to do is we have to make sure we stop
Yeah,
selling
her
them
and her
any
husband
land, and we take back the
single-handedly
land
fight
they already
China all the
purchased.
time.
We need to go to our universities and we say, you either take Chinese money or you take American money, but the days of taking both are over. We need to stop
Well, I
all of the
think they would just-
technologies that
that'd
are
be
going
bad
to
'cause
China.
they would just take lots of
Biden
Chinese
approved
money then.
70% of them. Trump approved even more than that. We have to tell them we're going to end all normal trade relations
just
with them until
wonder
they stop
what-
murdering Americans with fentanyl. And we need to make sure we build up our military. But the biggest
target
thing, I
audience
was very
of
attached
this
to China
debate,
in terms of
like,
trade. And the one thing we'll do
broadcast-wise.
is we won't wait
Do they even
for
One of the
care?
China
questions
to
was,
pull
how
the
many
rug out
trans
from under
people
Iowans.
would you want to see
What
in the
we'll do is
military?
instead we will move that trade
Yeah.
to where we have friends. We will go and build partnerships. India,
Would
Japan,
you have
South Korea,
sex
Philippines,
with a-
Australia, Israel.
trans
We
male or
will go
female,
and
depending
move
on
that
who
trade
you're
over.
asking.
Right now, you can ask our farmers
Is
when they
it
go and they
gay
buy from China. China orders,
for
cancels the
a
order, then
cis
goes and tries to buy
het
it cheap.
man
That's what
to have
China
sex
does.
with a trans woman?
That's
Our
a valid
farmers
question.
deserve better than that. We will get them trade deals. When I was governor in South Carolina, we sold and we exported everything we were making in South Carolina.
She doesn't give
When
a
I'm president,
shit
we will
about
sell
anything
and export
domestically.
everything that's being made in Iowa to those that are our friends, not our enemies.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis.
I bet she has seen Klaus
The way you
Schwab
deal with
naked.
China is threefold. One, we need more hard power in the
Hard
Indo-Pacific.
power.
Hard
I'm a
power.
Navy guy.
Blows and
We
hard
need more
power.
sea power. We're going to build that up, and we're going to have a strategy to deny their ability to invade Taiwan or to get beyond the first
Hard
island
strategy.
chain.
We're gonna say
On
no.
the current course, they're going to
Deny
take
their
advantage of
ability.
Biden, and we're going to lose the day when that happens. Second, we got to decouple our economy, particularly things that are nationally significant to our
I'd like to
national
break up.
survival.
Congratulate
You gotta be
myself
methodical,
to say that I'm at
strategic.
61% in the polls.
You're doing very well, and
Yeah.
the more they speak, the better you're going to do.
You know, that's because they don't know how to speak. All they do is yell at each other.
On that. And
You're
then
right, they're
also
bad
with
at
here
this.
in the United States,
They got nothing on
she's
you,
saying
Mr.
they
Trump.
shouldn't be buying land and be in the universities.
It
When she
feels
was
like
governor of South
this is a
Carolina,
private
she
meeting
gave
with a
China
bunch of
land,
wealthy
and
donors
they
in
were
front of
the
them that they're both
universities.
making
As
their
governor
pitches
of
to.
Florida, I
Yeah, it
banned
feels
China
like this
from
is a
buying land,
behind the
and we kicked them
scenes
out of
kinda
our
just
universities.
the-
That's what you want to do.
Yeah, show the audience.
Like an audition,
Yeah.
you know?
DeSantisLies.com.
DeSantisThighs.com.
An economic development arm. You had an office
You know, you
in
make a
Hong
good
Kong.
point.
On
They
the
did show the
website,
audience a lot
that
in
Florida
a
is
lot of
the
other
great place
debates
to
in
do
the
business
past.
for Chinese
Yeah, all they show is
companies to do
Jake
business.
Tapper.
And then when we called you out on it, you had the website scrubbed. So we know that that's the case.
Scrubs?
What I will tell
That's a
you
good
Yeah,
is
the
show.
we
TV
need to
show
focus
from
on
Comedy
I didn't know
Central.
DeSantis owned that show.
On China. And we need to make sure that we look at it through a national security lens. When we had COVID, everybody told you to wear a mask. It was made in China. They told you to take a COVID test. You turned it over. It was made in China. If you go down the drugstore aisle, all those medicines are
Look
made
at my
in
ass,
China.
it was made
we
in
need
China.
to make sure we're getting medicines made here, or we need to get it from our friends
By
so that we're
Chinese.
not in any way threatened.
I get
But
my
I'll tell you,
medicine from
Ron
Mexico.
continues to sit there and talk about China. He has done expansions in China. His
I think
biggest
that her
donor that is backed
outfit
by
looks like a
China
tongue.
gave them $340,000. So don't go and talk about donors
Her
and
outfit
money.
happens
Go
to be
DeSantisLies.com.
very
We'll
close to the
tell you all about
Pantone
it.
color of the year.
I know your record hurts in
My
China.
record doesn't
Color of
have
the
any
year?
economic
Yeah.
power.
You're talking the opposite of what you
She's
did.
very
You
now.
were made a big effort to bring them into the state. They had land near a military base. You were in front of the Chinese
I wish he
flag
was
saying you
wearing the
worked for
same
them.
dress and
You wrote a
pearls.
love letter to the ambassador. That's well documented. He
feels
was the
like
number
this
one
is the
Republican
People's
governor
Court and
in
Judge
the country.
Wapner is
And
gonna
even
be
people
there.
that on the media who are hostile to me, they look, they
You
say
know,
they can't find one
Judge
instance
Judy just
of me as
endorsed
governor recruiting
Haley.
a Chinese company because I haven't done
Just
it. It's not been part of that.
DeSantisLies.com,
And the
it's
Enterprise
on there.
Florida. we
Well,
have
there
some
really
of
is a DeSantisLies.com.
I know, I was looking at it too.
Major companies on Wall Street, they make a lot of money in China. There's a reason why you're in the mess you are
Look at that,
in
she's
terms
got
of
that
trying to deal with the
shit-eating grin
inflation
on her
and
face
everything.
again.
Because
She had
the
to have
elite
made
in this
that
country
website.
have sold out the
No,
middle
she
of the
did.
country
Yeah,
for
she's
China.
she's funded
She is
it.
part of
There's
that
no
now,
advertising.
and she's not gonna
Pfizer
stay
really
away
missed
from
the
it.
chance
I want
there.
to ask about something that you mentioned. You've been talking a lot about
Shovel
on the
face
campaign
again?
trail, which is decoupling the U.S. economy with
Just say
China.
it's
She's
a
wearing a
divorce.
China
wig.
is
What
a
is that
top supplier
pure
of
white
goods to the
outfit
United
and the
States.
white
The U.S.
microphones
sells
there?
more than
Hey, I don't
$150
think things have
billion
been working
of
out
goods
between
to
us. I
China
think
every
we
year.
need
Is it
to
really
decouple.
possible
We
to
had to
sever
break up.
economic
Sorry,
ties
Chester.
without inflicting major
We're gonna
pain
see
on
other
American
countries that keep
business
creating
and
it.
American
We need to
consumers? consumers?
Sure it is,
They're
and it's
in
something
their
that you got to be
very small
strategic, you got to be
studio,
methodical
it's
about. You got to
They
focus
what?
on the things
They're in a very small studio.
It keeps glitching out.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, Mr.
It
President.
makes it, yeah.
For our
I-
military weaponry.
It's
All
very
these important
reverby and like
things
they're in a
that if we
corner.
got
The
into a
audience is
worldwide
in a
conflict,
corner or
we're
something.
gonna ask China, who may be on the other side
Wouldn't
of
it be
that,
great
to
if
continue
one of
doing
these
that.
two like
So you
broke
gotta be
down and
smart
turned
about
out to
it.
be a
You gotta
robot?
recognize that you're gonna have to do
All
some
reality
incentives.
I would
just
love it
fell
if that
apart.
Tax incentives,
personally.
I'm pretty
regulatory
sure that
incentives.
that
I wanna
happened
make
to
things here again.
Unzips
You know,
his
Ossoff-
DeSantis suit.
John Ossoff is a robot.
John Ossoff did
Follow
short
that
circuit at
in
one
the
point a
Eastern
few years
Party.
ago.
And I've talked to folks and
I
seen
was
what that
interviewing
did
him.
for the community. We were sold a bill of goods by a lot of elites in this country that somehow putting China in the WTO and granting a most
Bathroom
favored nation
bills
status
and-
was
You
going to
know,
lead
that
to our
Ossoff
manufacturing
rape function.
exporting a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
there.
he had a rape
Instead,
function,
they
Ossoff
gobbled
did.
up so much more
You remember that,
manufacturing.
huh?
I don't think you can be a first-rate power unless you have a very strong industrial base. But we're going to do that here. We're going to work on workforce education.
See, if
But
he
not
would have
everyone
said,
needs to do a
if you have a
four-year
very
Ivy
strong
League
industrial base
university.
while holding his
That's not the
dick,
best way or only way for people
I think
to
that would have been more
succeed.
powerful.
We're going to do
Yeah, it would have been way more powerful. It would have been quoted tomorrow.
That's what
Headlines
people would-
everywhere.
That's what would get a lot of attention.
No pun intended.
DeSantis is just not cool, you know. That's why his radar
We
is
can't put the
sanctimonious.
interests of some of the people on Wall Street over the interests of Americans
But
on Main
DeSantis
Street.
says a
move
lot
on
of the
to,
right things, and
Social
he's done.
Security.
Some of the things he's done have been
Let's
good,
move on to
but
Social Security.
he's
According
just
to
going to
the
be better at
Social
this in
Security
4 years,
Administration,
maybe,
Social
than he is
Security
now.
will be unable
Agreed.
to pay full
You know, I
benefits to
completely
Oh, there we
agree,
go.
Bradley.
if
There's
no
a
action is taken. Governor
supposed
DeSantis, you have
audience
said
shot.
that you're not going to,
Oh, there it
quote,
is.
mess with Social
Dolly shot.
Security, unquote.
Could have been.
Does that mean
It could have been a
you
green
have
screen.
committed to never raising
It could be.
the retirement age and never
Yep.
cutting benefits?
Yeah,
So
the
all
whole
seniors
audience
out
was
there,
made inside of
promises
the
been made
Unreal
to you.
Engine.
You've paid into this. Every
Yeah.
It's
single
all
paycheck
AI.
that you've had your entire
could
life
well
you've
have
taken money
been.
out of, and that promise needs to be fulfilled. So that will happen when I'm president. Of course, I have a lot of seniors in Florida that depend on Social Security. I know many of them.
He knows
and I think
all of
back
the
to my
seniors
own
in Florida.
grandmother who was lived till 91. Social Security was her sole source of income. So promise made, promise kept. You know, on the retirement
Check.
age, you know, it used to
We
be
never
people
lent
would
her
say,
any
well,
money.
Life expectancy is going
Really,
up.
get a
Shouldn't
job.
it mirror that?
Oh, you
Well,
can't?
the
You're
problem
91?
now in the last
Well.
5 years is life expectancy is going down. So I
People
don't see
do
how
like
you can
Florida
raise
better
the
than like
retirement
Yeah,
California.
wonder
age
why.
for sure.
when our
It's-
life
it's
expectancy
warm.
is collapsing in this country. That's a huge problem in and of itself.
You know,
I'll
I'm
work with
still
both
gonna be
sides of the
working at
aisle.
91.
We'll work on something for the long-term strengthening,
will.
but I am not gonna
You're
mess
you're
with
going to be a
seniors'
dictator because
benefits.
day one
In this
dictator,
high
you'll still be
inflation
president,
environment,
right?
I'd move
groceries
back
are
to
going
Yeah,
Florida.
day
through the
one's
roof.
gonna
Rent
last
is going
another
through the
30
roof. All
years.
these staples, and you get a cost of living adjustment, but that's not enough to cover the costs that have been increased.
He's like pleading
So
to his
seniors
parents to
are really
stay up
strapped,
just
particularly
after
those that are on
bedtime.
fixed
He doesn't
income,
understand why he
and
can't.
they have
the way
to
he
know
speaks.
that we're going to deliver when it comes to their Social Security check. Now we're going to get inflation
Does look
down.
like an
Did you
overgrown
see
child.
the
doesn't
Al
it?
costs down. There's gonna
Franken
be a lot of
interview
things that are
about
gonna
the
help
dictator
seniors,
day one
but I think
coming?
seniors should
No,
know
Al
promise
Franken
made will be a
spoke on
promise
it.
kept.
So
Yeah,
just a point of
you know, I
clarification,
also
15
want to run on
seconds.
Let's Make Al
Removing
Franken
current
funny
seniors
again.
from the
MAFA?
equation, you're not saying that you're committing to never raising the retirement age or cutting benefits.
I would never
He hasn't
raise
been
the
funny in a long
retirement age
time.
in the face of declining life expectancy. I mean, I think that would be really bad. I mean, just think about it.
Look at her
That hurts
laughing.
blue-collar
She's such a
folks.
smug
You get taxed your
bitch.
entire
She's
life.
got another
Life
one-liner.
expectancy's down. You may not even be recouping very many benefits, and so
Thank
life
you, Governor.
expectancy
Social
is
Security-
declining.
Governor.
That's a big
Eric,
deal.
He's like going
I'm
to fuck
seeing
people
it out.
eventually.
3 years in a row, he voted to raise life expectancy to 70 years old. 3 years in a row. Go to
He voted to raise
DeSantis.com and
life
you see it.
expectancy?
What?
So now suddenly
He's
like,
he's
I wanna
running
keep it at
he's running for
45.
president.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
not
not
gonna
letting
do it.
any of you
can't do it.
die.
What I'll tell you, Social Security is going to go bankrupt in 10 years. Medicare is going to go
No way
bankrupt
out
in
for
8. He
you.
talks about taking care of seniors. Right now, it's Florida. Is the inflation
care of
hotspot.
seniors.
It's the highest cost
Yeah,
of
you
living
take care
of
of them.
any state in the
Yeah, I'll
country.
take care of
Seniors are
that.
having to leave because they can't afford it. It's documented
That's
in
not true, Nikki.
DeSantisLies.com.
Nikki, that's not true.
What I'll tell you we have to do is
Good.
we
You know,
have
That's
to
not
get
she's
true,
like
Dr.
the
for
Regina
seniors, but we also
George of
can't put our head in the
politics.
sand.
Who's
For
Regina
those
George?
like Ron
From
saying
Mean
they're not
Girls.
going to touch Social Security.
She is a mean girl.
That means they're going to
Yeah.
leave after 4 or 8 years and leave it bankrupt? No.
Like the
What we do is we go to
DeSantisLies.com
those
is
in
like
their
her burn
20s
book.
and say we're going to change the retirement
Yeah.
age to reflect life expectancy. Instead of cost of living increases, we do increases taxes
I mean,
based on
she's clearly a
inflation. We
nightmare.
limit benefits on the wealthy.
Thank you,
And
Governor.
we
Expect to see
expand
it's coming
Medicare
down, isn't it?
Advantage plans,
So-
which seniors love.
Thank you,
That's
Governor.
how we'll
Thank
deal
you,
with
Governor.
it.
He needs another
Reducing
cocaine
the
eye drop.
benefits, when you do the change in
What do you
taxation,
think
reducing
her
the benefits. So let's
the
just put this in
first is it the
perspective.
first
Under her
gentleman?
administration,
Is
you
that what
would
it's called?
have seniors
gentleman,
getting
yeah.
less
First gentleman.
cost of
First
living
gentleman.
adjustments,
What will his
while
Christmas
your tax
video be
dollars are
like?
going
His
to pay
Christmas
the pensions
decoration
of
video be
Ukrainian
like?
bureaucrats.
That's not true.
You talk about
He'll be the
President
angel.
Trump.
He'll be
Yeah.
sitting with his,
That is
his
wrong. You
asshole will be
supported all that
sitting
money
on
going
top
over
of the
there.
tree.
So let's put
You're
our
so
own people
desperate.
first. We
You're
have to
just
put
so
Governor
desperate.
Haley,
Have a
let
dress
she also
on.
said she
That
said
would have been the
recently
There's a
coolest
that
soundbite.
the age of Social Security is way too low, and I criticized that, and then she was called on it. And then she said she never said it, of course, you're lying. And
That
then sure
pit
enough,
again.
you put on the interview where
Yeah,
she's there,
she's
spit
got
an
a-
image,
a
and
real
she says
relationship
it's
with
way
that
too
pit.
low.
Poison
So
pen.
we can play this song and dance.
The pen
She
is
has a record.
signaling
She
to-
makes
to-
They're
statements.
both
And I
trying
think
to
part of
do
the
like
problem
as
with
many
her
good hand
candidacy is
gestures as
now
I
that she's
do.
getting scrutiny,
It's a
she's
war
got
of
this
hand
problem with
gestures.
ballistic podiatry, shooting
a
herself
heart
in the
attack
foot
pen.
every other day.
What
saying
was
See,
that?
that's
Holistic
ballistic
podiatry he
take
just
questions
said?
from
Ballistic
people.
podiatry.
Governor
He's doing
DeSantis.
his
Governor
SAT
Haley,
work.
you want to raise the retirement age
That
for
was
younger
quite a
Americans.
line
You
there,
have
that
not
she's
said
committing
what that age
ballistic
should be.
podiatry and
Should
shooting
voters
herself in the
20s
foot.
plan on working until they're
Oh, that,
70?
You
that
know-
was, a, that
First
was
of all,
definitely
he
a
hasn't
pre-written
answered the
line
fact
there.
that He voted
Yeah.
to raise the retirement age to
getting low.
73 different times. He can call me whatever name and
appreciate
be
it,
demeaning
but-
as much as he wants. It doesn't
Oh.
change the fact that Ron's lying because
After-
Ron's losing.
yeah, she's called
Everybody
him a
in the
liar all
country
night,
sees it
and now
for
she's
what it is.
complaining about
so
being
what I'll tell you
demeaned.
is, yes, we're going to take on. We're going to be responsible.
I'd like to
with
see her
it,
show her
and we're
foot
going
to
to go
prove
to
she hasn't
those in our
shot herself
20s.
in it.
When I
Yeah.
said the retirement age was too low, again, where he's lying, it's because if you go and you can go to DeSantisLies.com, I said it's too
She's
low.
like, I've
for
blown
women to
through
look at those in their
everyone
20s.
and
But
every
we have to
hospice
go and start
hundreds of
looking
miles
at what
away.
we can do to get
Wouldn't
out
it
of
be
this. We
great?
want to make sure that
It'd be a great
everybody
like
who was
90s comedy
promised
about an
gets it,
ex-husband
but we
and
also
ex-wife
wanna
who
make
are
sure
running
our
against
kids
each
have
other for
something
president
when
of the
they
United
get it, too.
States.
So the way
Must
we
have
do
been
that is
done.
exactly
Come
how
together
I
at the
laid
end.
it
It's been
out.
done?
Then we'll know
It
what we're
must have
looking
been.
at, and then we can start focusing.
I
The
gotta
other
look
thing
into
is
that.
we need to start cutting spending in D.C. We have to go back to pre-COVID levels. That's why I'll veto any
I always wanted to
spending
do a
bill that
show where
doesn't
the
take us back to
president
pre-COVID levels.
actually
That
wanted to
will
be a
save us
stand-up
trillions.
comedian, and he used
We've
to
gotta
host
go
open
into
mics at
every
the White House
agency,
all the time that
replace
would
them
get
at
broken
every
up by
head
Secret
of
Service,
every
where they just
agency.
bulldoze all these open
Into
mic
every
loser
agency. I did that as
comedians.
governor. Pull down old regs. Pull
He's
down
just
old
trying to make
programs,
it.
Get rid of any problems.
You know,
Job
I'm
is-
and
starting to
clean
think
those
that
agencies
Dennis
out
Miller
and
is
get the
writing
election
for
votes. There's a lot of
DeSantis.
waste in DC.
With the
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
To go in there and clean it up.
It was very
but we're
Dennis
not going
Miller
to take
like.
away from anyone else. And he's yet to answer the fact that he voted 3 times to raise the retirement
Just a
age.
clarification, Governor Haley.
She likes to
In
point.
15
I'm a
seconds,
ballistic
should
podiatrist.
voters in their 20s plan on having to work until they're
They-
70?
It says
They should
ballistic
plan on
podiatry,
their
a little
retirement
known
age being
specialty.
increased. Yes, we're going to change it to
Son of a
reflect
gun
more
podiatry.
of what life expectancy should be.
Well, one of the things that I think we disagree on too is Governor Haley has said Social Security is an entitlement, but you know, it's not an entitlement. You're paying into it. It's not a welfare program. You're being taxed for this your whole life.
True.
And so to expect to have benefits
Exactly.
on the back end, you know, I don't think that that's
Come on,
too
you're
much.
wrong.
The other thing I'd point out is Social Security
Look at
for
her
decades
pulling out her
ran massive
note there.
surpluses. What happened to those surpluses?
Where's my next one
That's
line?
how-
Congress
Can't do
spent
foot
the
surgery.
surpluses.
Yes, when you
They
raise
have a
the
big
debt.
problem with that. So number one, we need term limits for members of Congress. Number two, we need a balanced budget amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Number three, we need to give the president a line item veto. And number four, when you see all these congressmen making a killing in the stock market,
At least
like
he can
Nancy
count.
Pelosi, she could run a very lucrative hedge fund. We need a 28th Amendment to the Constitution that says very simply, Congress shall make no law respecting the citizens of the United States that does not also apply to members of Congress themselves.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, I
There you
think we
go.
all can. Amen.
Of abortion, which of course has been hotly debated in this
That was an
Republican
easy to
primary
digest
campaign.
moment.
Governor Haley last week, Governor DeSantis said that former President Trump is not pro-life. Do you agree?
I mean, look, I think that he did some pro-life things when he was president.
Did
You'd
some
have to ask
pro-life
him. That's
things?
why he should be on this debate stage. Don't
couple
ask
of
me
things.
what
You should be
President
there to
Trump
defend
thinks. You need
yourself.
to have him on this
I'm
debate
not
stage
on
and
the
ask him for
debate stage
yourself.
because I'm
Governor
ahead by
DeSantis?
50 points.
Well, look, I think that we've stood very strongly for a culture of life. Governor Reynolds is here. She has stood strongly for a culture of life and enact pro-life protection.
I mean, CNN
We've done
blames
it in the
Trump
state of Florida.
for Roe v.
You
Wade
know,
getting
Donald
overturned,
Trump
and
has
now they're
attacked
asking
that.
about
What
him
they
not
did under
being
Governor Reynolds
pro-life.
here in Iowa, he said that that's a quote terrible, terrible thing. I don't know how you square that. He was at the March for Life when he was president his last year, and he said that life life's a gift from God, that the unborn are made in the image of God, and that you needed to have protections for that human life.
laboratories.
And now saying it's a terrible, terrible thing. He's given a gift to the left to weaponize that against pro-lifers, and that's wrong. But here's the thing. Republicans need to do a better job of lifting up folks who are
Carrying
having
them.
children. It's very difficult to raise kids in this environment. You need to help with medical care. You need to help with affordability, and we need to help with education choice. You got to be pro-life for the whole life, and you got to have some compassion.
It's a good line. Pro-life for the whole life.
Pro-life for the whole life.
Thank you, Governor. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Governor, yesterday in
Shovel
Iowa, you
face with a
criticized
question.
Governor Haley on this issue of abortion. You said she's, quote, indulged in left-wing tropes and
Dig a hole in that
chastised
head.
pro-lifers. Do you believe Governor Haley is sufficiently pro-life?
I think she's been confused on the issue. I think
I
she's
think
trying
she's a
to
bit of a
speak to
cunt.
different groups with different things. But when she says things like pro-lifers need to
Nikki'sABitch.com.
stop talking about throwing
totally
women in jail,
work.
that's a trope. No one I've ever met thinks that
It's
that's
probably a
something
porn
that's
site, but if
appropriate.
it were available, it
These
would totally
women are in
work.
vulnerable situations. They don't get any help a lot of times from these fathers who don't want to be there supportive. A lot of
She
times
looks
they
like
don't
she
have
knows
resources
something.
themselves.
She does,
So it's a
doesn't
very
she?
difficult
That shitty
situation,
grin.
and we've got to have compassion for those situations. But I think when she starts bringing that in, that's using the language of the left to try to attack pro-lifers. So I think that is wrong. But at the end of the day, I do agree with her on this. Donald Trump should be on this stage. He owes it to you here in
Nikki'sABitch.com is
Iowa
available.
to explain this change he's had in his positioning, to explain
He looks
why
like in a
he's
little
running
bit.
for
For
saying
second
whether a
place.
man can become a woman or not, to explain why he wants to build a $1 billion plus big, beautiful new FBI building right in the heart of the swamp in Washington, D.C. He needs to explain why he didn't build
Right
the
where it
wall
belongs.
and why he added $7.8 trillion to the debt. Every candidate needs to earn your vote. Nobody's entitled to your vote. And he comes in here every now and then, he does his spiel, and then he leaves.
Mine's for sale.
I've shown up to all 99 counties.
He's just
because it's
not good
important.
at
You're a servant
contesting
of the people.
Trump.
You are
He's
not,
not-
a ruler over the people, and that's the type of president.
Could I do a
would be.
GoFundMe for my vote?
That would be a good pitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please elect me.
I didn't hear the criticism from Ron about me for being pro-life, but I'm not surprised. It's something that he does all day, every day. I am unapologetically pro-life,
people
not
pregnant?
because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband is adopted, and I've got
So,
my two sweet children.
Democrats
sitting in front
love
of
her
me, and I had
position
trouble having
on
both of them.
abortion. They
These
talk about it all the
fellas
time on
don't know how
CNN.
to talk about abortion. I have said over and over again, the Democrats put fear in women on abortion, and Republicans have used judgment. This is too personal of an issue to put fear or judgment. Our goal should be, how do we save as many babies as possible and support as many moms as possible? That's what we're going to focus on doing. We're not going to demonize this issue anymore. We're not going to play politics with this issue anymore. We're going to treat it like the respectful issue that it is. And the tropes that you want to talk about, you keep saying, where is anybody talking about putting a woman in jail or giving her the death penalty?
pearl
South
necklaces
Carolina.
represent
There's
abortions.
legislation right now that would put a woman in jail if she got an abortion.
Thank you, Governor.
That's why I say
Thank
that.
you, Governor. So I do want to remind
Wait a second.
viewers-
Wait a second.
Go ahead.
What did you just say?
Basically, she said she's very kind of favorable to pro-abortion. Her position on abortion.
But did she just say that she puts people in jail for getting abortions?
No, she accused DeSantis of doing that.
No, she said South Carolina at the moment.
That's correct. Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
did she say South
can-
Carolina?
If a woman gets an abortion, she can be put in jail. That's what she said.
Interesting. I didn't catch that.
Of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those
There's all these
found
little
in
bombs
the
dropping and then they just
Constitution,
move on.
unquote.
Yeah, you're
On that
right. You
subject,
should
former
follow
Vice
up with
President
it.
Mike Pence has said that on January
I
6,
thought she was accusing
2021,
Mike Pence.
Donald Trump put
No,
himself
he's a cartoon
over the
character.
Constitution.
His
Governor
brother
Haley,
just quit
is
Congress.
there any meaningful difference in how you and Donald Trump view the Constitution?
Oh, here
I mean,
we
look,
go.
you take an oath to the
January
Constitution,
6th.
and I think what you're seeing is Donald Trump basically said that the election was stolen. He went on and on talking
No, I
about the
didn't
election being
basically say
stolen.
it. I
He said that
repeatedly
January
said it.
6th
Despite
was
all
a
the
good day. I
actual
think January
evidence
6th
of
was a
the
terrible
election
day,
problems,
and we should never
which
want
they
to see that
ignore.
happen again. And I think we have to always be strong
We
on the
should
fact
never want to
that,
see
look,
the
we
inside
want fair
job of
elections.
January
And we
6th
saw
happen
some
again.
discrepancies in those elections in 2020 that should be concerning. That's why I passed voter ID in South Carolina. That's why I think when
Racist.
absentee ballots go out, you should be able to verify signatures. That's why
Yeah,
I think
it's
ballots
obvious.
need
That's
to be
why I don't
counted
allow
on
black
election
people
day,
to
and you should
drive
get
on
results
election day.
But that election, Trump lost it. Biden won that election, and the
I
idea
don't know that
he's
that's
gone
true,
and carried
though.
this out forever
They just
to the
bury
point
all
that
the
he's going to
actual because
continue
Garland
to say these
presents
things to
like
scare
legit
the
evidence
American
all the
people are
time.
wrong.
You know,
We've
I'd
seen
like
a
to
lot
call
of
him the
states come together
resident.
and do more election integrity bills.
The
We need to do
resident.
more than that. We still have 3 or 4 states
Joe
that I'm
Biden,
worried
the
about.
The
that
resident.
don't have that.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, I will
He's a
always
squatter.
defend and fight for the Constitution. That's what we should do as Americans. I think what happened on January 6th was a terrible day, and I think President Trump will have to answer for it.
So
I
just to
was
clarify,
This is
just
such
bad as
bullshit.
9/11.
Bullshit answer.
a clarification,
Yeah.
Governor.
Never forget
Is there
January
any
6th.
Yeah, it's worse than
Constitution?
15
I mean, I
9/11s.
think that he says January 6th was a beautiful day. I don't think it was a beautiful day. I think you look at that. He thinks that he could go and bring in
It was an
the
unarmed
fact that he
insurrection.
wanted to
Meaningful
change
difference in how the
Had
U.S.
fun.
what the
view
states did, the
Constitution.
fact that he wanted
I
to
never
overturn the
referred
elections
to January
in D.C.
6th as a beautiful
Those
day.
votes happen at the state level. You don't ever allow in D.C. for those votes to
I
be
bet she has it on
changed
videotape.
at the federal
you,
level.
Governor.
States' rights matter.
Thank you, Governor. Governor
Yeah.
DeSantis, is there any
So she's
meaningful
full of
difference
shit.
in how you and
That is.
Donald
Oh,
Trump view
she's
the
the liar.
Constitution?
She's a total
My
liar.
role model for how to do the Constitution is George Washington.
Oh.
He said, the
he'd
Constitution
say
is the
Don
guide
Lemon
that I
or
will
something.
never abandon. And I remember when I took an oath to be an officer in the U.S. Navy, you raise that hand, you put that left hand on the Bible. And
That
it's
was his
interesting,
right
the oath
hand.
doesn't say that you're going to defend the shores of the United States or engage in military conflict. The oath simply says that you will support and defend the Constitution of the
soundbite.
United States. As President of the United States, you will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. You can't just terminate the Constitution. I mean, I know he does, word vomit from time to time on social media, but obviously I will uphold the Constitution. And I think it's fine to criticize Donald Trump, and I know the media brings this up a lot.
Is that true,
But
Mr.
you know who
President?
else deserves to be criticized? The people that violated the Constitution during COVID to lock people out of schools,
Amen.
to destroy businesses, to force masks on people, to try to
course.
force vaccines.
Just like Aaron
I'm gonna
Rodgers
bring a
says.
reckoning to all these agencies, the CDC, the NIH, the FDA. They harm people in this country. And when Dr. Fauci said there
Thank
was
you,
no
Governor.
learning loss for kids,
Thank you, Governor.
What an asshole.
Governor.
Fuck you,
Thank you.
Piece of shit, Tapper.
Let's
All right,
talk
so
about-
Thank you,
what
Governor.
do we think about
Let's talk
the
about
kids
your
shooting off
powers of the
fireworks in
presidency,
Miami
because your
yesterday?
opponent Donald Trump was in court yesterday for a hearing
I didn't see
on
that.
presidential immunity.
We're talking about you
Governor
in court
DeSantis,
yesterday,
I'm wondering
Mr.
if you
President.
agree with the argument that Donald Trump's lawyer made in court that a president should have immunity for any conduct in office, including, as the judge asked, ordering the assassination of a political rival, unless the president gets impeached and convicted by the Senate.
They
for
make
the
it out
offense
like
first.
Trump, his
Well,
lawyer, presented this
obviously, that
question. This was
attorney
a setup
gave the case away
by
on
the
that
judges.
explanation. I think the D.C. Circuit is going to rule against Donald Trump on that issue. I'm not exactly sure what the outer limits are. I don't think it's necessarily been
That's a show.
litigated.
Yeah, that's weird. That's
It's
weird.
not going to be an issue with me because I'm always going to follow the
Well, maybe that's just
Constitution, and we're gonna uphold the best traditions of the office. And I'm gonna
Did
be
you
a
guys see
president
that
to be
story
proud of.
yesterday?
I think it's
Trump's lawyer
important that,
says he
people
should
be
be
able
allowed to
look the
assassinate
president and
political
say,
rivals.
Hey,
Right,
you know,
he was
that's
just
somebody
making a
that's
point,
worthy
right?
of emulating.
It was
And
the
so, my
lawyers
wife and
or
I,
the
we just view
judges
ourselves
that
to try
asked the
to do
question
well
to
for our
try and
kids and to make sure they're
derail
proud of us
the
and
argument.
set a good example. So
It's a
that's what we
setup.
would do. And that's
You
the situation.
should
But I
go
think
and
there's a
watch
larger
the
issue
interview. It's a
Republicans
great
gotta think of.
interview. It's a
Donald
perfect
Trump's gonna
interview.
lose that appeal. He's going
With
to end up
CNN?
going to trial in front of
The
a
interview with
stacked
me coming
left-wing
out of the,
DC jury of all
courtroom.
Democrats. What are
Oh,
the
yeah,
odds
yeah,
that he's
that's
going to
good.
get through that? And that's not even talking about the validity of the charges. I don't think he gets through that. And so what are we going to do as
charges
Republicans in
are
terms of who we
bullshit.
nominate for president? If Trump is the nominee, it's going to be about January 6th, legal issues, criminal trials. The Democrats and the media would love to run with that.
But like
I'm
that's
not
what it
running for
should
my
be about
issues.
because it's such
I'm
an
running for
abuse
your
of
issues.
justice
We
and
need
such
to
a
make this
demonstration
election a
of
referendum on the
corruption.
failures of Joe
And
Biden,
whether
the failures of the
Trump is
Democratic
put there
Party,
to
and how we have the
facilitate that and
formula
cause division,
to
I don't know,
engineer a
but
great
it
comeback
just
for this country. That's what I would.
Why am I the only one that's making comparisons to Mao, Joe
This ma-
Biden?
this making what?
Comparisons to Mao with Joe
Do you agree
Biden.
with the argument
You're
Donald
right.
Trump's lawyer
It's
made in
it's
court that
so
a president
crazy.
should have immunity for any conduct,
They're abusing
including
everything.
and ordering the assassination of a political rival, unless that president is impeached.
He
and
didn't
convicted by
say
the Senate
that.
for that offense.
The
first.
judges
that's
said that so they
ridiculous.
could
That's
use it in this
absolutely
freaking
ridiculous.
debate.
I mean, we need to use some common sense here. You can't go and kill a political rival and then claim
He never
you know,
said that.
immunity from
He
a
never
president.
fucking
I think
said
we
that.
have to start
It's
doing
propaganda,
things that are right. And you know,
Brad.
Ron
The
said we
fake
should
news,
have
they're
And she's
leaders
such
that
a
we can look
fucking
up to. Well,
bitch.
then
They're also
stop
making
lying,
the
because
future
nobody's gonna wanna
propaganda.
look up to you if
You know,
you're
this is
lying.
sort
But
of
what
for
I
the
do think we need
for
to
the
look at
records
is
more
what
than
is
The
it
anything.
that
AI can
Trump's
train
done?
off of this.
You look at the last few
Exactly.
years. And
As
our
well.
country is completely divided. It's
Multifaceted.
divided over extremes. It's divided
Nikki, I
over
think you
hatred.
should wear a
It's divided over the
skin-colored
fact that
dress today
people
with
think
3
that if
pearl
someone doesn't
necklaces.
agree with
Peach
you that
fuzz.
they're bad. And now we have leaders in our country
That's the name
that
of the
decide
Pantone
who's
color.
good and who's
I just
bad,
wish that
who's right and who's
outfit had
wrong.
nipples
That's
on
not
the
what a
outside
leader
of it.
does. What a leader does is they bring out the best
You know,
in
you've been
people
dressing
and get
like
them
an
to see
ice
the way
queen
forward.
in too many of
That's
these
what we need in
debates,
our
Nikki.
country.
Yeah.
We don't need this chaos anymore. We need someone who's going to be a new generational leader that brings sanity back to America.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you so much. The CNN
Sanity through
Republican
nuclear
presidential
bombs.
debate live from Drake
Need to
University.
sanitize America.
It is so like I can't stop thinking about what you said earlier, Mr. President, about how they're not cutting to commercials like they did in the other ones. It's just so obvious how they're using the communication apparatus and the platform they have to give her this place to spew all these globalist positions. I mean, this might as well be Klaus Schwab up there drinking Greta Thunberg's blood while he makes the same points.
Well, you know, Brad, they're just all deep state operatives.
Yes, they are. Mr. President, what do you think about MAPA? Make America Proud Again.
Oh, I was thinking that she was going to say Massa, make America sane again.
Make America massive. That wouldn't be bad. That'd be a little better. What do you guys think of that segment? I think it's just more of the same, defending globalist positions.
But you also, Brad, you can't say proud or you sound like a racist, right?
Yeah, you sound like a white nationalist Christian.
So what is Nimrod Nikki Haley a white nationalist?
Nimrod. Yeah, she's a racist. She's a racist,
Yeah.
slightly person of color. She's like a person of slight color.
She's off-white.
Are you seeing the same ads as I am? So there was 2 different paper towel
Was she
ads.
Italian?
I
What
saw
is she?
that. Yeah.
It's odd. Very
It was
strange.
like a foot fetish ad.
Cleaning up the mess afterwards after everyone's vomited.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was very strange. 2 different paper towel ads.
But Nikki Haley is a well-known foot fetish person.
Well, it's
She
because everybody's vomiting while these people are just spewing at them.
yeah, all over.
That's
Nikki's
right, sir.
feet. Nikki likes to
It's
suck it
making
up.
my stomach upset, I'll tell you that's for sure.
Who's winning? Who's winning the debate? You guys
Vivek.
think? Vivek is winning.
Or Vivek, sorry, Vivek.
Is it Vivek or Vivek?
It's Vivek.
Oh, really?
Vivek.
Vivek. The fake.
Vivek. Well, a lot of people do think he's fake, and he might be. He says the right things right now. I
Yeah.
know he had some
Yes.
vaccine tweets not long ago that weren't the best. He's changed his position on that. Did you guys see that Don Lemon, speaking of people changing positions, like Vivek and some things, Don Lemon is doing a show on X,
Oh, no.
and Don Lemon said that he's excited.
Don
to-
Lemon.
Yeah, Don Lemon. And it's interesting because when he left CNN, he told this local news affiliate that one of the reasons he left is because he is not going to be someone who's responsible for platforming bigotry and hate, which is interesting because when he was on CNN, he used to say that X or Twitter was a platform for bigotry and hate,
Yeah.
the place where he now resides.
Well, he's going to fight against it. He's going to say, I thought that the best thing I could do is just enter into the fray, and I would shine light in the darkness.
I
That's
do
gonna be his
wonder,
thing. Yeah.
though. Like, I wonder if he's going to do a little bit of a flip like Chris Cuomo's done.
Yeah, that one's weird to watch. The Chris Cuomo flip has been strange.
Do you know the
Actually-
Cuomos? Any of you guys?
Yeah.
I mean, I know the Cuomos. Do I like them? No.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the whole flip thing. It's probably a strategy, would it not be? Like, for instance, Vivek.
Right,
So you've
right.
got these people because there's a lot of flipping going on. So you've got these people and they say certain things and they cover a fairly wide range of topics, and then people sort of get to like them, and then they'll do a flip, and it's like there's already this like association. It's like the first impression.
Totally.
So it's like
Yeah.
totally an anchor point sort of thing.
Right, that's a
Um,
persuasion tactic. It was
Yeah.
this guy. I can't remember his name, but he wrote a book called Persuasion, and he was one of Hillary Clinton's advisors for a long time. And one of his principles of it, and it goes back to Edward Bernays and propaganda too, where it's you get people who have the most influence over a group. Like they would go to the local preacher in a black community, and they would convince that preacher to propagate the messages they were promoting. So to influence that group because everybody trusted them. Now, that's what makes it hard to distinguish between who is a genuine influencer and who is just being controlled. That's why I just look at the messages personally. And when the messages veer somewhere else, then I'll call it out. But when the messages are good, then I'm okay with the messages. I just think it's dangerous to trust any of these powerful people too much.
At all.
Yeah.
With healthcare, neither of you has released a detailed healthcare plan, so we want to give the voters
great.
here
Healthcare, it's fun.
some
Jeez.
insight
Okay, we're gonna give
into
the last 30 minutes to your
what he might do
healthcare
as
plan.
president.
Let's
Governor
detail it
Haley,
This last
as
short
governor of
40-minute
South
15
Carolina,
minutes
chose
each.
not to expand Medicaid under Obamacare.
You know, they should have done that
This
part
one where we are
earlier
in
so
Iowa
all the
did
old
expand
people could
Medicaid
go to sleep.
covering 115
Oh my
million
gosh. this is
After
so-
23 minutes,
Would
you're going to
you
hear a
allow those
horn.
states
You're
to
you're out of
keep their
time.
expansions
And
in
then
place?
there's going to be
Well, the
2-3
first thing is we have to
hours
look
of
at the fact that how can we
post-analysis
be
coverage of
the
this.
best country in the world with the most expensive health
I
care.
wonder if there will be,
And so the
because
way we're
there
gonna deal
there
with it
is no
we're gonna open it all
conflict
up,
point to
from the
debate after the
hospitals to
show.
insurance
No,
Yeah,
they'll
companies,
just
to the
no.
go.
doctor's
They'll just
offices,
go.
to
They
the
yelled at each other a
pharmaceuticals,
lot.
to
Where was
PBMs,
Trump? Why
make
wasn't
them have to
Trump
show
there?
us
Let's say
everything.
Trump's name
Because
as much
right
as
now,
possible.
I can tell you,
Trump,
we take
Trump,
care of my parents.
Trump,
They're 8
Trump.
at night. My dad is in the hospital right now.
Do you guys
When my
think
mom
I'm
was
going
in
to
the
take this down because
hospital,
I think
a
this is
nurse
kind of
came up
boring
to her
what
to
they're
give her
talking
a
about. We can
picture.
read it.
She
Look, I
said,
do think healthcare is very important. Absolutely very important. I think that these people are
"We got the bill from
they
the
more use
hospital.
it to kind of
No one
control
talked to us."
society.
Right now, you
But
have insurance
uh,
companies and
do you
hospitals
guys
trying to
think
push
that
this for us. We're gonna take
there are
patient
people
out of
watching
Medicaid
this
and put 'em in the driver's
that
seat.
are
We're gonna make
everyday
sure that just
people
like
who
we
are
did
like,
for
man,
the
I really
vaccine,
got a
we use
lot
it,
out
we
of,
can give
I
you
didn't know
cheaper
these things about them, and now I know who I'm going to vote for.
We can give you a
I'm glad I hung in there through all these debates because last night's was the best damn one.
Vivek wasn't in there, that
Re-
Indian.
I mean, damn, it was just the two that you always want, Nikki and Ron.
Just that
Wait a
Indian
minute, wait a
Nikki.
minute. What happened to Ian and Brad? How did these rednecks get on there? I don't understand what's going
Oh,
on.
sorry.
We're just doing
Sorry.
voices.
That was
we're having
chloroform.
fun.
Oh,
He was
God.
doing a voice. That was chloroform.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it was so confusing. You guys
Sorry,
were
Mr.
so
President.
convincing.
We should have warned you.
competition back in healthcare so that healthcare is fighting for the patient.
It's
That way
just such a
services go
waste.
up and costs go down.
Like, how much does
Yeah.
production cost?
This goes up and costs go down, and I mean, I don't know how they're ever going to do it.
They haven't
It-
really said a whole lot, have they? It's just really being a dob session. dobbing on
Everything
each
they've
other.
said, you can read on DeSantisThighs.com.
Yeah, nickie'sabitch.com.
And Nikki'sABitch.com.
Also, nickie'sabitch.org, nickie'sabitch.
.org, bitchesabitch.cunt. It's all there. Because the script.
Wait a minute. I thought they just gave her time to speak, and then they just gave it back to her again.
Who
Yeah.
accepted
They gave her a
Medicaid
mulligan.
to keep it.
Well, I've spoken with a lot of folks here in Iowa, and we need health care that's accessible.
How many folks you
that's
think you've spoken
affordable,
to
that's
in Iowa?
I would like to know
particularly
specifically.
an emphasis on mental health. In every
How many
corner of this
specifically?
state,
What are their
everywhere I've
names?
traveled in the campaign, people are really concerned about mental health with the kids in schools, people that are coming out of service to our country.
Who?
with
Are you guys
veterans.
concerned
We're
about
gonna
mental
put a
health?
big emphasis on mental health.
I mean, look
actually
at Joe
delivered on
Biden,
some of these
very
things
It's
concerned
true.
about mental
we
health.
got accountability for the
Yeah, earmuff the
pharmacy
kids still,
benefit
you're
middlemen that are causing your drug prices to go up.
Hopefully your
we
kids
have
aren't watching this
transparency and
today.
consumers pay less. And I just beat the federal government to allow the
He
state of
beat
Florida
another
to buy
one.
prescription
Yep.
drugs from Canada, which is 25
trail
cents
of
on the
beatings.
dollar what our prescription drugs cost. I want seniors to be able to do. And then finally, we need to upend this COVID
He
and
needs to
medical
say
authoritarian
those
regime that we
shocking
saw
facts, those
going
damning
around this
facts,
country during
more
COVID.
matter-of-factly
It's wrong to
instead of
force
more, I'm
vaccines,
9 years old,
like
let
the
me stay
COVID
up late.
shot and say people are going to lose their jobs. That is not going to ever happen on my watch. Trust me.
Governor DeSantis.
What kind of
said-
watch
That's
does
like
he
I
have?
think second clarification.
Andrew Jackson just going around beating British people.
Beating everybody.
Yeah, he would look good in like, one of those Angus Young style, suits with the shorts.
Maybe a big gray wig.
It's like
Cool kid cap.
Puffy
Yeah.
wig, turtleneck.
It's not just about a sheet of paper if you don't get any
And a
good
Gibson.
doctors
Thank
that
you,
gives
Governor.
I mean,
Yeah.
what if he showed up
Governor
dressed
DeSantis
as a
mentioned
Civil War
mental
soldier?
health.
I mean,
Let's
that
talk
would
about
get
that.
attention.
There is a mental health
I mean, that's where
crisis
we
in
are
this
right
country.
now,
An
isn't it?
estimated 58 million
It's glorified
Americans suffer from some
cosplay and
type
porn is
of
what
mental
politics have
illness.
become.
Governor Haley, you say the mental health crisis.
They need like a
is
little Bill
public
and Ted
cancer
sort of little
that no
guitar
one
coming
has
into the
dealt with.
corner, like a little
What do you
GIF.
think
You know,
is
every time he
causing
says
the
something good, it says
crisis, and what would you do
Absolutely.
little
to fix it?
guitar
Well, I
solo.
think we
That would
still
Oh,
have
fire
it'd be
them
so
up.
great if
Excellent.
that
with the
phone
school
booth just
lockdowns and
showed up
everything else,
behind the
we
two of
see
them
young
and they
people
got
now with
out.
more anxiety,
Or,
stress,
yeah,
and
right.
depression than ever before. One
Or
in
one of
three
those
people right
TARDISes
now
that
suffer
this
from
David
mental health
Grush
issues.
UFO guy
But if
says
treated, they can
exists
live a
in
perfectly normal
reality.
life. The problem is we don't have enough mental health therapists. We don't have enough mental health treatment
They
centers.
can live.
We
See
don't
on the
have enough
screen?
addiction centers.
They
And if you
live.
happen to be lucky enough to get one of those three, insurance doesn't cover it. We have got to start dealing with this because it's
I
become a
just
huge
wish
issue.
I could see the
And that's why
moment
we
Nikki
need to have
Haley
more
met
telehealth so
her
that people
daughter's
can get the mental
husband,
health care they need
because she
right
seems
when
like
they need it.
a
We need to have mental health counselors
like a
in
racist
schools
person to me.
so
I'm,
they
I'm just
can identify
projecting.
when a child has a problem that they can get the help that they need. But right now, we've got to get access to care. And
But then
that's
she
again
takes
why
this
I want to move those
photo
federal
at her
programs
daughter's
down to
wedding
the state
with her
level
husband, and she's
because
like
states
gripping
know
her
they
daughter's
need more mental
husband
health support.
like she
They're
wants
not
some of
getting
that
the
D.
dollars to do it. We don't need DC bureaucrats handling that. We need this on the ground so that we can get the mental health centers, get the therapists, and get the help that people need so that
Is
they
that a
can be healthy
microphone or
again.
like a
Governor-
roach that's
Governor
attached to her
DeSantis,
pearls
you
there?
said right here in Iowa this summer that closing mental health institutions, a policy supported by
Say it's
I
probably
Ronald
a mic,
Reagan, was
little
a
lapel
mistake.
mic,
Yeah,
a
I
pearl
hate-
mic.
President, would you
I
restore
hate that
federal
white
funding to
outfit
those mental health
and those white
institutions?
Yes,
microphones.
we
It's
need more
bright,
people
isn't
in
it?
institutionalized
It's too bright.
settings, unfortunately.
It's like she
White
rolled around in
But, you know,
snow.
Governor Haley
White on a
mentioned, I
blonde.
think correctly, the
A
devastating mental
blonde
health
shovel.
consequences for these school closures, a lot of things that happened during COVID. I never recalled seeing her out there fighting the fight. I was on the front lines on that. Governor Kim Reynolds was on the front lines.
He
on
likes
that.
this Kim
we
Reynolds
fought back
chick.
against the biomedical state.
Yeah, he's got
We
a
were
real
attacked
crush
by
on
the
her.
media. We were attacked by the pharmaceutical companies. We were attacked by the left. Attacked
You
by
think he's
Fauci.
giving her a pearl
We
necklace
stood
or
and we
two?
helped people. And Iowa and Florida had the best schools opening in the entire pandemic because we led. That's what you want to do. Now, in terms of mental health, I've run into veterans here in Iowa.
You
and I
bumped
think we have
into
a
him on the street
significant
while he was
problem
jogging.
with veterans, particularly the post
Yeah, and he
9/11
just
veterans. And we
pushes
know
them
the
down.
stats of
Yeah,
suicide.
you-
It's really, really sad. As a fellow
Cripple.
veteran, as president, I have to put that issue on the front burner. We can't keep turning a blind eye to what's happening to our vets.
That
It's not gonna
background
be
there is
done
very
via-
unstable.
and can't
It
be
is.
done
It
just by
keeps
pumping
glitching
people
out.
with
It's
pharmaceuticals.
weird.
The veteran
Does
has
make me wonder.
post-traumatic stress. We need more than just that.
I'm also
So
seeing
we're
flash
going to use
frames.
the VA to link veterans with resources that are throughout our country. For example, in Florida,
This is
we
elaborate
have an
adrenochrome blood
organization that
pumping,
trains service dogs
you know,
to be able to be paired with veterans with
machine
post-traumatic stress.
behind
They
that
understand the
screen.
symptoms, they mitigate it, and you know what? The suicide rate is close to zero as a result of that. We got to think bigger than these bureaucracies, and we've got to be there for our vets and their mental health.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Governor.
Turning to the topic of climate, 2023 was the hottest
Oh,
year
good.
ever
Everybody
recorded
cares
on
about
Earth,
this.
and Americans
Yeah,
are
Everybody
already
tune
feeling
in.
the impact just
Oh, yeah,
yesterday.
climate
The
change. Here
National
we go.
Oceanic and Atmospheric
Yeah.
Administration reported
You
that
got
the
too
US
many
has
pairs
planned
of sneakers.
28 weather and climate-related disasters that cost at least $1 billion last year, another record. Governor DeSantis here in Florida, Governor DeSantis here in Iowa, massive
he
flooding
fucked
has
up.
left farmers underwater. In Florida, rising seas threaten coastal cities.
All right, I'm going to
US
take that
agencies
down with the
are
rising
working
sea.
to
Well, I want to see what
mitigate
DeSantis
the
says, actually, if he
problems
just
of
calls out
rising
the
seas. But as
bullshit.
president, would you do anything to deal with the underlying cause, which scientists agree requires cutting carbon emissions?
The paid ones.
So on day one as president,
Day
we
one?
take
On day
Biden's
one.
Green New Deal, we tear it up and we throw it in the trash can.
All right.
It is bad for this country. We
What
have
a
to have
great New
reliable
Deal.
energy. And here's the thing, you know, they
What a
talk
terrible
about, Joe
name.
Biden has said that global warming is worse than a nuclear war. And I'm just
They
thinking
do
to
say
myself, well,
that.
gee, John Kerry hasn't given up his private jet.
John Kerry.
Obama hasn't given up his Martha's Vineyard seaside mansion. I haven't seen Biden do anything to hold China accountable except making sure that Hunter
Obama.
gets his money.
China.
Well, these guys talk out of one
Threw
side of their
his
mouth and then they behave
former
in another
chef
way.
into the
I think
water
that's
behind
wrong.
his
I
house.
also
That's
think that
terrible
those
for the
policies
environment.
would
Yeah.
devastate communities, particularly here
I haven't seen
in Iowa. I
his
mean, for
chef
example,
at
he wants to
Martha's
mandate
Vineyard.
electric vehicles. That's going to be more costly. I think the car companies would go bankrupt, but it's going to hurt liquid fuels, which is very, very important. You're going to end up having rolling blackouts if they kneecap reliable energy production in this country.
Petty loves
Florida's had a
kneecap.
Yeah, I think the
massive
push to
decline
EVs
in
is stupid.
emissions.
It
It
is
wasn't
dumb.
because of a single mandate. It was because of innovation, because a lot of natural gas has
If they
replaced
use
coal.
ballistic
We do have
podiatry on
market-based
that
solar, and it's a
energy.
complement. but we cannot walk away
the
from
best
reliable
line.
energy. And I think about, here's what the left wants to do. They want to take away your freedom, and they want you to pay more for everything. We need you to
Hey,
pay
we're gonna
less for
take away
energy.
your freedom,
We need to make
and
sure
you're
people
gonna pay
can
for it.
innovate. We cannot have these mandates, and they'll be gone the day I'm president.
So, Governor, just
He
a
needs
point of
to slow that
clarification, 15
down.
seconds. Recent research at the University of Iowa ties these floods in
Ties.
Iowa to the rise
To Donald
in
Trump.
greenhouse gases.
And here's the
As-
thing,
let me
Jay,
just
I
ask,
appreciate
let me just
that.
ask the question: As
What a
president,
dickhead.
would you do anything to deal with this underlying cause?
Innovate. And here's the thing. China is building 2 coal plants
I'd like
a
to see him
week.
threaten
You
Jake
can do
Tapper
everything
personally.
Biden wants to do, and you're going to have way more of what
Hey,
China
Jake
is
Tapper, you
increasing it.
beta.
So why would we be
Yeah,
cutting
call
off
him a
our nose
beta.
to spite our
That'd be
face?
great.
China is the problem here, and so
China.
hold them accountable.
Thank
But
you,
don't
Governor.
hold the American
Governor.
people
Thank you,
to less
Governor.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Governor.
Governor. Thank you,
Thank you,
Governor.
Governor.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Governor.
Governor.
The underlying cause
Governor.
of the flood.
Nikki
That is
Haley,
true.
would you do
disasters,
anything
which
about
scientists
global
agree
warming? Answer the question.
requires cutting carbon emissions.
I mean, first of all,
Let's see what she
regardless
says.
of what party, everybody wants to have clean air, clean water. They want a world that
She's
they
a
can pass on to
Democrat.
their kids.
She
that's
could
gonna
run
be
as a
healthy and
Democrat.
all
She'd be
of
the
that. But
front
it's
runner.
how do we do that? I think the first thing we have to understand is you don't
Stop the
deal in
chemtrails?
extremes. When I was at the United Nations,
Stop
the
putting
reason I took us
chemicals
out
in
of
the
the
water
Paris
that make
Climate
the
Agreement
frogs gay.
was because
Yeah, stop
President
turning
Obama
the
had
frogs
put all these
homosexual.
mandates down on our businesses, but they didn't do anything to hold China and India to account. Those are the 2 countries we have to really go to.
The
Nice
first thing
dodge.
we do is we give Alex Jones a bigger
and make them
mouthpiece.
be held accountable. The second thing is we'll roll
You
back
notice how
all
she
of
dodges
Biden's
the
green
question. She's
subsidies because they're
clearly
misplaced. Rather than
clearly
putting
trying to
anything
appeal to the
towards
Democrats and the
innovation
donors
on
by
what we
not
can do on nuclear fusion
answering
and
the
other things
question
that
in a way
reduce
that
emissions,
a
which there are
conservative
things
or a
out there,
Republican
to
typically
go
would.
and have everybody have to drive an electric car by 2035. That's not even smart. One, because, which by the way, Ron took Biden's stimulus money and did charging stations all throughout Florida. I wouldn't have taken the stimulus money. But what that does is basically we don't have the infrastructure. And I'm not just talking
I
about
took the
charging
stimulus
stations.
money and got more
Electric
cocaine
vehicles
eye
are
drops so that
heavy.
I could make
Our
it through
roads
this
and bridges
debate
wouldn't
at
be able to handle
10:48
that if we
past
did
my
that because they're
bedtime.
heavy in weight.
She
And so we
just
have
said
to
they
be
didn't take the
smart about
stimulus
the way
money
we do that. Not to mention
and bash
70% of
DeSantis,
the
but then said we didn't have
batteries
the
in electric cars are made
infrastructure.
in
So she would have
China.
taken
I
it if
know.
they had the
Biden gave this
infrastructure.
massive windfall to our
I think he
number
took it to
one
build the
national
infrastructure.
security
Is that
threat.
what I'm getting?
If we're going to do it, innovate it,
I don't
transition,
know.
and do it the right way,
Thank
not
you.
an extreme.
But
Thank
those
you.
things
Let's
catch
go to the
fire
issue
and they
of
can never put
crime.
they can't put them out for like 3
The
days.
majority of
These
They're
Americans
things.
terrible for
describe
the
crime in
environment.
US
Everyone
as
knows
either
that now.
extremely or very serious. Recent data show crime rates falling, but some
Is this a
violent crime rates do
domestic
remain
terrorism
high.
MAGA thing?
Crime
Governor
rates.
Haley, former President Trump suggested that he might try to stop violent crime by deploying U.S. troops to Democratic-run states and cities.
Here we
something he
go.
could potentially do under the Insurrection Act.
The
Is that something
Insurrection
that you
Act.
would do as president?
What I would do is, first of all, defund sanctuary cities. It's hugely important that we do that. That's where we're seeing a lot of crime.
Mr. President, I want to ask you, while they talk about crime, they're all full of shit. Did you see where Michelle Obama said how terrified she was of you becoming president?
Actually, I didn't.
She did an interview yesterday where she talked about how horrifying it was, the thought of you becoming president. And that led a lot of people to speculate that maybe Mike Obama might actually run
Big
for
Mike.
president against you.
Hey, look, I've been saying that. They're going to pull the 25th Amendment. Biden's going to be out the window. Nobody wants the Joker. And they're going to bring Big Mike in. That's why I said that a couple weeks ago on your thing.
Yeah.
You did, right. And do you think that Big Mike would have a chance to beat you?
Look, Brad, I don't think anybody's got a chance at what's coming.
Oh, the storm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We've been just sitting in the calm.
Right. Well, a lot of people are going to be very happy to see John F. Kennedy Jr.
Look, Brad, there's Q and then there's the Anons. There's no QAnon. The Anons are the ones who get it all flaky and all out there. Like your friend Ian and his aliens.
Oh, he's talking about BLM here.
Sat in the White House and tweeted
And
law and order.
Antifa.
He did nothing to ensure law and order. As your president, I will never let our cities burn. You have every right to stop this runaway rioting. As president, in fact, you have a duty. Now, Nikki Haley and I have a disagreement on the BLM stuff, too, because she tweeted during this period of time that the death of George Floyd should be, quote, personal and painful for each and every American. But people in Iowa
Oh,
had
you
nothing
see
to
that
do
eye
with
roll
that,
she
or
gave?
Florida or South Carolina. She was virtue signaling to the left. She was accepting the narrative, and she was trying to
She's
impress
angry.
people
Get that
who were
pin
never
out.
going to like her.
And
I
then
never
she
bought
put
into
a
going
black
after the
face
police.
up on her
We back the blue
Instagram.
to the
Thank you,
hilt of the
Governor
state of
DeSantis.
Florida.
Oh, did she?
And we're at lower crime as a result of
Thank
that.
you, Governor Haley.
I hate her outfit.
It's interesting that he did that. He put a tweet that was very similar, but let me tell you
I
why
really
he
do
did
put a
that.
tweet.
First of all, we had one of the worst 2 racial shootings. We had the shooting of Walter Scott, who was shot 7 times in the back by a dirty cop. We had a horrific shooting at a church where a white supremacist came in and killed 9 amazing souls. BLM, all of that, we never had to deal with riots. We never had to call in the National Guard, Ron, because when we had both of those shootings, we were able to pull people together. We didn't have riots, we had vigils.
He
We
blew
didn't have
through all of
protests,
them.
we had
South
prayer.
Carolina
We
the
brought
place
people
that had the
together.
people
When
with
I
the
said that about George Floyd,
pitchforks
when
and
we
the,
turned around and had the worst shooting in a religious place
tiki
that we have
torches?
seen in this country.
Charlottesville.
Not only did I pass the first body camera bill in the country,
Good people on
and
both
keep our
sides.
state
Does
together,
she really
not
think
only
that
did I
she's
move
the
to bring
reason
the
people
Confederate flag
didn't
down,
protest?
we came together
And
as a
stopped
state
them.
in prayer, and we
She-
had
she
no
gave all of
division,
them
no
a pearl,
riots, no
like a
anything.
I'm,
We didn't
I'm the
need
one who
national
sent everyone a
guard,
group
because a leader knows how to bring
email
out the best
and
in
told
people.
them we should have a vigil.
Didn't Dylan Roof? What, didn't
You
that
have
shooting
been
happen in South
sparring on the
Carolina?
campaign
Oh,
trail
do you
for
think
months.
she's the
We've
Mother
seen some
Mary?
vicious attack ads
She's a
going
virgin.
back and forth.
Yeah,
and
it's like they
tonight we have had
take
a
all
very
the organic
lively
things that
debate
the
on a
community
different
themselves
note.
do, and they'll
Right.
just take
Right.
credit.
They just
Let me
can
ask
take
you,
credit for it.
What do you
Can't do
admire
that.
about Governor Haley?
What do you
Well,
admire
look, I
about
mean,
her?
I think that, at the United Nations, I did think that she spoke out strongly
You should say her
on some key
ruthlessness.
issues, and I appreciated that. I also appreciate the state of South Carolina.
Don't do that with your
My
hands,
wife
Ron.
is a
It's
College
weird,
of
isn't
Charleston
it?
graduate. Her parents lived
Be
there
on the Illuminati
for many,
list
many
next.
years, and so it is a wonderful state. There's a lot of great people there, and I think to be able to have been governor
You think
there
he
is-
might be
is a
in the
great
Illuminati,
achievement,
Mr. President?
I really appreciate everyone I've gotten to meet in South Carolina.
Governor Haley,
Do you
what do
think
you
the
admire
money
about
is-
Governor
Yeah.
DeSantis?
Oh,
I
no.
think he's been a good governor.
You know anybody in the Illuminati, Mr. President?
Okay.
Klaus Schwab.
So we're going to squeeze in another quick break.
Oh,
and
squeeze
we'll be
it
right
in.
back with
Larry
more
Fink.
from the
Look at that.
Republican
Oh, yes,
debate
Larry
here
Fink.
at Drake
Absolutely.
University.
Did you guys see the video of DeSantis? I don't know where he was, but he was speaking to it was like a town hall. It was just an event. There's a bunch of people, and somebody's asking him a question, and he had his hands like that, like he had here, and he just positioned himself like he had just been training to do this, and he just froze for like 2 minutes.
Was he
It was like-
trolling, you think?
no, I think that he was like listening to the question.
Oh, I see.
It was like a 2-minute question. He was like smiling, and he looked like a wax museum figure for the entire time. And you can see when he gets asked, you can see him get into the position very methodically, put his hands, and then he just doesn't move again.
Hey,
For
can you
like-
show me the hand symbol to the camera, Brad?
I think it's like this. Is this probably a white
Yeah,
nationalist
all
symbol?
right, Brad. What do you know about chi?
Who?
Chi, like building your chi, your energy, your.
Oh, yeah.
QI.
Yeah, I don't know a lot.
You've studied a lot of kung fu, haven't you?
Kung fu, a lot of Eastern philosophies.
You're so
Western
well
philosophy.
informed about many things.
So that's it's a meditation stance that you do with your hands to align all of your chakras together.
God, Mr. President.
It's it's how you make big deals.
That's how you get all these things accomplished.
I do a lot with my chakras, Brad. Sometimes it just feels like there's energy coming through my asshole right out of my third eye.
That's powerful. Wow.
I do a lot of manifestation.
Yeah.
Obviously.
You're very much on the orange frequency, aren't you, Mr. Trump?
Oh yeah, the orange frequency. That's the one that I'm usually on.
Yes, the orange chakra,
If you could just
whatever that is.
impart that orange chakra, asshole to eye power, to all of the American people, I think we could overcome the communist takeover of this country in the world.
I give a lot of hints to that in my books. You should try reading some of them.
I've read your books, actually. I tell people to read your books. What is the first one? I can't remember what it's called, but I have it over here. It's interesting. It's very. But one of my favorite parts in it is you tell a story. I don't imagine you sat down and wrote it. I imagine you walked around and spoke, and somebody else would probably put pen to paper. But you tell a story about how you went to your artist friend in New York, and he said, you guys are about to go to lunch, and he goes, hey, you want to see me make $50,000? And you said, yeah, sure. And he just took a bunch of paint and throws it all over the canvas. And because he has a big name, he sells it for $50,000. And you thought that was interesting because of the way people value the individual really over the actual piece of artwork. Do you remember that?
It's a lot like you value buying a brand name over like, the not brand name, like Coca-Cola versus RC Cola.
Right. And
Sure.
Yeah. That bullshit.
I was,
But I would take a Coca-Cola over RC. RC's just not a good cola.
They had the first
art of the deal. Yes.
Yeah, they had the first Diet Coke. Isn't that interesting?
And the orange chakra, by the way, represents death and rebirth.
Gotta check.
Yeah,
Does
it also represents the gonads, the lower abdomen.
Kind of like the phoenix coming back from a stolen election, death and rebirth.
I remember
right.
that story of the phoenix emerging after the stolen election.
Very orange visual.
Yeah, the
Yes.
phoenix is very orange. Fire.
It's going to be
is very
spectacular, Mr. Trump.
Mr. President, Stella, I don't know if you know who this person is, but I just saw on the
Yeah, we
newsfeed that-
spent some time together, Stella, on the last broadcast, Brad.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you guys. No, I know you guys know each other.
Jennifer says hello, by the way, Mr. Trump. Jennifer Hawkins.
Tell them hello, and let's make America great again.
Let's make a deal. Let's make a
Yep.
deal and make America great again.
She was the Miss Universe that you very, very much liked some years ago.
There you go.
The Australian lady.
There you go.
You hung out quite a lot.
I'm a
Is she
genuine
watching
woman.
the broadcast right now? Is that why you said so? She put a comment in there?
Right? They all are, Mr. President. Oh, here they are.
All right, you're back.
11 months.
Hopefully
Whether
this
it's
is the
driving
final.
a combine or holding a pig at a
You know how many people
produce
kill
area,
themselves
or
while
whether
watching
it's the
this?
fact that we've met owners of bakeries and small businesses.
That was not medical
every
advice.
one of them knows
No, don't do that.
we can't go
Live.
through 4 more years of chaos.
Live.
And if it's Donald Trump, there will be 4 more years of chaos.
We'll get
and we
through
can't
this.
be a country in
Right.
disarray and a
Nikki
world
Haley,
on
there'll be
fire and
4
go through
years
4
of
more years of
murdering
chaos. And we can't
people in
go
other
through
countries.
another nail
Throat
biter of an
slitting with
election.
Nikki Haley.
And
Right.
if you look
I
at
bet
the
she does it
polls right
personally.
now, going against Joe Biden.
She's just
In
freezing
every one of
everybody
those
out.
head-to-head polls, Ron doesn't beat Joe
Think she's
Biden.
got like a freeze
Trump
gun,
is
like
head-to-head.
Captain Freeze?
On a good day, he might be up by 2 points. I defeat Biden by 17 points.
We've got a few good cold stares in her, I think.
That's bigger than the presidency. That's
I wonder
House, that's
what's
Senate,
inside
that's
those little
governorships, that's down to school
pearls
board.
around her neck.
That's
Like,
a
is it
mandate
little
to
secret
get our spending
almonds?
under control and get inflation down. That's a mandate to get our kids reading again and go back to the basics
Remote
in
control
education.
something.
That's a mandate to secure our
Explosives,
borders
yeah.
with no more
Yeah.
excuses.
She has
It's like
That's a mandate
scanners?
to bring
Was it
law and
scanners?
order back to our country, and that's a mandate
GOP
for a
rating.
strong
That's where
America
you would
that we
hide
can be
shit,
proud
is
of.
in those.
We can
you know?
do this. I know we can do this. If you will join with me in this movement,
God,
if
she
you
is so
join with me
bad.
in this fight, I promise you our best days are
yeah,
to
right.
come. God bless you.
Oh, God bless us.
Promise from a politician.
God bless us.
Well, it's been great to visit all 99 counties here in Iowa. I've been able to meet so many friends and really
How
learn
many
about some of the
friends?
best of America.
Exactly.
Iowa's votes
Name
do
them.
not need to be corrected by any other state. You all know what you're doing. And we have an opportunity in Monday to really change the course of history. Donald Trump's running for his issues. Nikki Haley's running for her donors' issues. I'm running for your issues, your family's issues.
I'm running for
solely to
that
turn this
dollar
country
a
around.
day.
I'm the only one running that's delivered on 100% of my promises. And I'm the only one running that has beaten the left time and time again.
A lot
From
of
teachers'
beating.
unions to Fauci to the Democratic Party.
I mean, he's
we
not
need
wrong
to
on
run
some of
under
that.
the banner of bold colors that are putting the American people
He thinks
first.
he's Andrew
You can't run
Jackson.
under a banner of pale
He
pastels
does.
of the warmed over corporatism, the likes of which is practiced by Nikki Haley.
So
Freedom
you're totally
is on
right.
the
Dennis
ballot.
Miller would deliver a line
Decline
like
is
that
a choice.
far
we
more
have it
effectively.
within our power to fix this country and to turn it around. I am asking for your support in the Iowa caucus on Monday, January 15th. I'll be a president that you can be proud of, And I promise you this, I will get the job done, and I will not let you down. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Slitting
Our
throats
thanks
day
to
one,
Governor
baby.
DeSantis and Governor
Good
Haley.
luck at the Iowa caucus to both
Governor
of you.
DeSantis
Very
and
good
Governor
luck.
Haley, thank you so much.
What is this
both
weird
of you,
shot
for being
here?
tonight. Thanks to our audience, to our host, Drake University.
It's a weird.
You know, I
Virginia
found
basketball
those
team and team, I'm Jake
black and
Tapper.
white
Thank you so
stairs
much for
were
watching. Be
almost
sure to join us
hypnotic.
Monday, January 15th at 4 p.m.
Which black and white
Eastern
stairs?
for CNN's coverage
So there
of
was some
the
black and
Iowa
white
caucus.
stairs in front of the little sort of here, see?
Pick it up right now.
And they
Oh,
would do
yeah.
these sort of dolly shots, and it
See you
was
tomorrow.
like this real. It was quite a
Yeah.
strange illusion, actually.
These
when
sh-
they were
yeah, so there's
closer.
that camera
Yeah.
person there. That was a weird shot of Tapper. See how Tapper and Shovel
I gotta
Face,
get going, guys. I'm sorry.
they're not even facing it.
Okay, Ian.
All right,
Take care.
Ian, everything cool?
Is that
Everything's
building
fine.
inside
Yeah, I
the
just
snow
got,
globe?
you know.
Yeah, I
My
know your
cat-
cat just had surgery.
Yeah, my
You think
cat's
that-
just had surgery, and
take
he's.
care of your
I
cat.
gotta, you know.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for
fair enough.
joining us.
All
Ian.
right, later,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, have a good one,
Bye.
man. See you
Yeah.
later.
All right, bye.
So, what? There's the images. So we see. Is that Nikki Haley's husband there? That we see on screen?
I hope so. Or who is that child? Is that theirs?
That's probably their
Prop.
tomorrow's adrenochrome.
Well, you know,
A straw hanging out the back of its neck.
Look at this Caitlin Collins. She is severely sunburned or been to a tanning bed or
you
something.
know, Kamala Harris was walking around on election day with some kid that wasn't even hers.
It's just a hired child.
I love how
She had a black child with her that she was holding hands with.
they like to make people think
Of
that
course.
Kamala Harris is a mom. And
Yeah.
they have these articles about how
And
great
black.
it is to have her maternal instinct in the White House when she married her husband, when all of her kids are his kids or her stepkids, and they were all adults when they got married.
Yeah, I know. Yes, that one was a good one.
She's a dumb bitch.
She did a really good job raising those children.
Yeah, did a great job raising it. What were y'all's thoughts? I mean, I think for me, I expected it to be underwhelming. I don't know that I expected it to be that much of a pitch just directly to donors for Nikki Haley. I thought maybe they'd at least try to appeal a little bit to a broader audience, but I don't think that they did. What do y'all think?
Look, I don't really have that many thoughts about these people because I just see a script being played out. I really don't see anything much beyond that.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, they make promises. It's just blah, 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 isn't it? It's always the same. Nothing ever changes. It's the definition of insanity.
And that's how
you know,
awful it was. You're right. It was just so repetitive and the same thing.
yeah.
If they say the script, then
Yeah, it was
they
very
get the money.
repetitive up until healthcare.
What happened in healthcare?
Oh, it
They
got really,
stopped
really
being
boring.
they've never talked about healthcare until then. They just talked about China, war, Israel, Trump.
And DeSantis World of Lies website.
DeSantis, it's like they
What's it called?
either
DeSantisLives.com.
DeSantisThighs.com. I'm encouraging everybody to
Lies.
go to
All
that.
right. Yeah.
Or DeSantisLives.com. They do have those websites though. I'm trying to find this clip that I want you guys to see.
You should make the DeSantisThighs.com.
Yeah, you should.
And
Just
just do
as-
the whole thing with the DeSantis lies things, but put it on his thighs.
Yeah, it's like him in bathing suits at the beach and vacation stuff like
I,
that.
s- I see chicken drumsticks or something involved. I'm not sure.
Oh my god. All right, so did you guys see this video of? Hopefully this will work.
Did you know, just before we move on, did you know that we do have voter ID in Australia?
Really?
We have had for, well, my whole life, I think.
Well, that's very
Not
racist.
that I've
Ellen.
ever voted as a child, but it is, isn't it?
So you
Yeah.
expect black people and other
Is that
minorities to be
keep
able to
the
have
Aborigines out?
They're actually allowed to vote now as of about 40 years ago.
Wow, you guys are very progressive over there.
Might have been the
I love
70s.
the voter ID argument here in Georgia that Stacey Abrams and her group would make. And they actually used Trae Young, the professional basketball player who has hundreds of millions of dollars at this point.
Mhm.
They used him as an example of how they wouldn't know how to get their ID to vote.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was terrible, wasn't it?
Trae Young doesn't know how to get his. It's just to me, I'm like, that's the racist thing.
Wait,
Exactly.
did Trey agree with this, or
I don't so Trey Young, my opinion is that he's a younger guy. He doesn't really know any better, and people probably come to him and say, "Hey, you want to be a part of this effort to help these kids or help this a group that's been oppressed?" He probably says, "Yeah, yeah," and then goes plays
Yeah.
basketball. I've never seen him make a statement about this particularly, but they did talk. Like Stacey Abrams and her group used him as an example, and I'm like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
So the way that they did it was he just in the background practicing, and they
Yeah, he's just
referenced
shooting
to him?
3-pointer. He has no idea what they're saying to the
I was
camera.
just gonna say, yeah. I mean, it's just
Right.
their people going to his people usually, isn't it? I mean, does he ever
Absolutely.
even
It's
hear about it? It's
He's
like
a
quickly.
talented young man, though. Very talented young man.
yeah, he's great. He seems like a pretty optimistic guy, and every time I see him get roped in to be used as a tool for one of these progressive propaganda campaigns, and it's like very obvious that he doesn't really know what's going on. That because I've done some commercials and stuff with athletes and people who they just bring them in very briefly to deliver a line, and then they're gone. They don't know
Yeah.
the broader context.
Another $100 million in their bank account.
Right. They just yeah, it's I mean, it's smart on their part to
So
like
are you just
target
saying they should shut up and dribble, Brad?
shut up and dribble. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Aaron Rodgers, just like Kimmel thinks, should shut up and dribble.
You know, I don't like that Kimmel. I don't like him one bit.
You don't think he's funny?
No, he's not funny at all.
He's a tool. He's an absolute propaganda tool, nothing more.
He's a dick sucker. He's full of shit. And I got disappointed the other day. I'm not really. I don't follow Adam Carolla, his former buddy on the Man Show. Which I thought was funny at times, but the fact that Jimmy Kimmel, who was on the Man, are you familiar with the Man Show, Stella?
No.
The Man Show is where Jimmy Kimmel and this guy Adam Carolla got kind of their start. That's how they became I don't say famous, but that's how they ended up being where they are today. Adam
Introduced to the
Carolla,
public.
yeah, Adam Carolla is now a right wing guy on I can't remember what network, but it's like the Blaze or something like that. And they're on opposite ends of the political
Oh, really?
spectrum.
Okay.
And Jimmy Kimmel, the Man Show started off with like girls with big breasts jumping on trampolines.
Mhm.
And that's like the intro. And then they do all these, stunts that are very chauvinistic. And there's Jimmy Kimmel, like, walking up behind women, pretending to grab their ass, just strangers and stuff like that. And
Mm.
there's sketches of Jimmy Kimmel in not just blackface, but entire black body, pretending to be Karl Malone, the basketball
Yeah,
player.
right.
And some of it was funny, some of it wasn't, but I have no problem with anybody doing any of that. And I think most people didn't. But then Jimmy Kimmel, years later, becomes a progressive propagandist who calls everyone a racist. The guy who used to do full body
Mm.
blackface, black
Mhm.
body. And then Adam Carolla goes on the other end, and I think that might speak to what you were alluding to earlier about putting these people that have this level of influence in strategic
Mhm.
positions
Mhm.
to kind
Yep.
of control both sides.
And also interesting that they had that duo who were together, and so they worked well together, and they had fans that liked them both and as a team, and then they got split, so they were opposite. So that's just another little tactic, I mean, that has some sort of influence on people, doesn't it?
Right.
It's sort of almost it probably created quite a bit of dissonance for some people as
But
well.
somebody the other day, because I'd posed a question. I was like, "Is Adam Carolla still buddies with Jimmy Kimmel with some of the stuff that he says about people that Adam Carolla seems to be buddies with, who are more conservative?" And somebody replied telling me that Carolla, or yeah, he was just praising Jimmy Kimmel, how they spent Christmas together, and how he's a great guy, and that may be so. And to me, that's just like it really is truly WWE. The
Mm,
wrestling, the
mm.
fake
Oh,
wrestling stuff.
totally, yeah. Absolutely, 100% mean it. I mean, like, I absolutely mean it, I'm not just joking. But, something that I've noticed is, some of the tactics, 'cause, they were talking about getting things back to pre-COVID levels, and this is
Right.
another tactic. I've noticed this as well with the climate change stuff. Like I was watching a United oh, no, it was Council of Foreign Relations thing this morning, and it was about a
Yeah.
year old, but I don't know, it just popped up, and I just thought I'd watch it, and talking about geoengineering. And,
Right. Yeah.
that's another story, but the point here is that, they're talking about getting everything back to pre-industrial revolution levels. So it's like they've got these goalposts that they know, A, they can never really prove anything, and B, they're probably unachievable anyway,
Never.
but
Yeah.
we're going to spend a crap load of money trying to get there.
Right.
And that's all just another front for money laundering, just like NASA and all the other things.
And they're going to inject the issues into society so people get mad about it. And then they
Yep,
can
they'll
have these
divide them
organizers,
somehow.
get all
Yep.
these activists to fight for something that's never actually, they're not actually trying to be achieved. They're just trying to
Yeah, these
organize society.
these think tanks are just writing the script.
I rewatched one of those commercials for the Great Reset the other day.
Oh, did you?
And one of the things I thought was funny is nobody said it but them, where they were like, well, this sounds like something some evil, nefarious group would do that wants to build a new world order.
Are you talking about that mocking one, that one that mocks all the conspiracies about it? I remember that one. Yes. Yeah, they have the World Economic Forum next week. I'm going to cut some clips from it.
Oh, yes, they do, don't they?
And talk about it.
January 15 or?
I think it starts on the 15th and it goes through the end of next week. So you guys see on screen here, hopefully this will work. I caught this on Sling, and Sling doesn't let me share, so I just recorded it on my phone and I only got part of it. But this is CNN defending Jimmy Kimmel against Aaron Rodgers, who they say Aaron Rodgers has been spreading these awful conspiracy theories, which is actually Jimmy Kimmel who's been lying about things. And this is CNN's take on it. And Mr. President, I thought definitely, and Stella, you too, would have an opinion about what they had to say here in defense of Jimmy Kimmel against Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers was once again peddling all sorts of conspiracy theories and nonsense on ESPN when he came and responded to Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, he was talking about how vaccines supposedly cause injuries, which of course is something rejected by the medical community.
Did you guys know that the vaccines causing injuries are rejected by the medical community?
Well, not getting vaccines cause you to bust your ACL.
Right. But like that usually they qualify those statements at least a little bit. Yeah, they might cause a rare injury.
Very ambiguous, all their language is. But it doesn't matter, does it? Because the fact that it's been said and it's created an impression in the people's heads that don't think, that's the winner. That's all that matters.
It's crazy because this girl here, I kept watching. It'll have the video of it, but she didn't say like, no. It does. There are rare injuries because that's what they say. They don't know if it's actually rare, but that's what they say at the very least. She didn't even do that. She was just agreed and then doubled down. Yeah. They cause no fucking injuries. And that's a conspiracy. I mean, what a wild, crazy thing to say.
Well, I mean, doesn't even like maybe the CDC or somebody, don't they even admit there's been vaccine
all
injuries?
admit to it. They fucking all admit to
So...
it. And here they are, and they are fact checking Aaron Rodgers by saying the most obvious, disprovable lie that they could ever say.
It's pretty weak.
And he looks very vaccinated. He looks like he's had 4 or 5 boosters, personally.
Yeah, at least. All in his
Yeah, Kimmel said that he had a fact-checking team.
He did. He said Kimmel said that he is telling the truth, and Aaron Rodgers isn't because Kimmel has a fact-checking team.
The fact
on his
controllers.
comedy show.
Yeah, fact-checking team. It's all of his fat women writers.
Yeah. No, it is. They do. So Stephen Colbert actually told this. I read an article about this a couple of years ago. He told the people who are hiring for his show, he said, send me no more white males, no more males at all. I only want female writers who are diverse. And all you have to do is watch his monologue to tell that it's not written by a man ever. It's clearly written by a woman being delivered by a man. And he spends part of his show saying, meet my female diverse writers. And it's like, well, tell me some funny jokes they wrote first, and then we'll be happy to find out who they are.
Give them some credit.
Yes.
Yeah. They're normally in the background too, aren't they? Like they're not really meant to be front and center.
Usually I've never seen someone say, meet my white male writers or my black male writers. Say they don't ever do that.
Isn't part of the illusion that, they're supposed to be just coming up with this stuff? I mean, that is part of the illusion. So they shouldn't even be admitting to having writers.
That he comes up with it. None of these late night shows are stand-up comedians either. Kimmel's not. Colbert was never a stand-up comedian.
Right.
What's the other guy, Fallon? He wasn't. With the British guy, I don't think he was. I don't know.
Well, Jimmy
Um,
Fallon may have done some stand up in his younger years before SNL and all that type
I'm
of
sure
stuff.
he's done it, but what I mean is, like the David Letterman doing 300 nights a year stand-up comedy before he got that gig. Same with Leno, same with Carson. Those guys were seasoned every night stand-up comedians, and these guys are basically controlled by NBC through SNL comedians that they place there, who I'm sure they've done stand-up to practice, but they're not
little bit.
stand-ups. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a control mechanism, isn't it? Do you remember Craig Ferguson, I think was his
He was
name?
funny. He was super
He was
funny.
awesome. I used to watch him, like, it was a long time ago now, but that was one of the very few American comedians that I used to sit and watch. I really
He was
liked
on the
him.
Drew Carey show. You ever see that?
Oh, I liked Drew Carey too, yes. And
Yeah, it's a good show.
What Line Is It Anyway? Or
Whose
something
Line
like
Is It
that.
Anyway?
Who's
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great show. I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
liked
Some
that.
of those guys that do Whose Line Is It Anyway come to Atlanta. And have you ever done a show with one of them, Mr. President, in Atlanta?
No, I've never worked with any of those.
Colin Mockery, I believe, is the guy who goes to Dad's Garage, as they call it.
Yeah, Dad's Garage.
The Improv Theater.
Colin, yeah, I know the guy you mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
Never heard of Dad's Garage before.
Never heard of it. Yeah, it's a lot of like improv wars still that go on in Atlanta and probably other cities as well. Actually, definitely Chicago.
Quite a big scene.
Yeah,
Is it?
right.
Nice.
No, it is. It's a big scene of, and I'm an improviser, but it's a big scene of nerds doing improv fights with each other, pantomiming.
It'd be fun.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So let me see if there's any more questions I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on before we get out of here. Did I ask you guys about Nick Saban retiring yet? The football coach from the University of Alabama? I don't think I did.
No help with that one, I'm
Roll
afraid.
Tide.
Wrong time?
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. There's a great commercial. You've probably seen it, Mr. President, about Roll Tide from a few years back.
Oh, there's no way you were in a Roll Tide commercial?
Oh, was I? Yeah. No. Yes, I was. So was a friend of mine who looks a lot like you, Mr. President.
Very
What
orange.
else? Yes, very orange person sticking his head out the window after getting pulled over in Alabama. He tells a police officer, "Roll Tide." Guy who looks just like you.
Must be a very handsome man.
Very handsome man. Yes, very, very handsome man. So did you guys see, I think I mentioned this earlier, but that Hunter Biden showed up to this hearing today? He just showed up.
Oh, I saw something about that. Yes.
I just caught this right before the show. He refused the subpoena and then shows up to the hearing unexpectedly, causing chaos, and he sits there and everybody's trying to speak. And at one point, Nancy Mace said something about his biologics or his ball. He said he has no balls. And then people started yelling at her. And then it gets to Marjorie Taylor Greene. And as soon as Marjorie Taylor Greene starts speaking, Hunter Biden and his entourage all stand. I mean, it looked like something out of a mafia scene. They all stand up and they just very, it's like it was rehearsed, just kind of storm in a controlled fashion out of Congress.
Almost in lockstep.
Yeah, I mean, totally in lockstep. And it's just such theater bullshit.
I'll be in my trailer.
That's where he went. He went to his trailer to go smoke some crack in a sensory deprivation tank while whacking off. And
while
It's
the
like
FBI
scene at the end
filmed
of
it.
yeah, you're right.
Untouchables.
And the Untouchables. What about the Untouchables? Mr. President?
It's like the scene from the Untouchables, what you just described.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I don't think.
Oh, I haven't seen it
You've
for a long
never
time.
seen the Untouchables.
I don't think so.
It's got Robert De Niro, Kevin Costner.
Not
It's
really.
about Al Capone.
No, they're in a sensory deprivation tank.
No. It's about Al Capone. The court scene you described sounds like a scene from that.
I see. No. Okay. So yeah, I know what you're
Very
saying.
mafia-y.
Family.
Yeah, you love bringing up Al Capone in speeches lately, by the way. Very fond of his organizational skills.
Only
Did
on
you
the
know
first
that,
day.
Mr. President? You bring up Al Capone quite a bit on the speaking tour.
Well, you can be fond of somebody's organizational skills, Brad.
That's right. It
Even though
doesn't
they
mean
do great things.
You know, people like to say you should never say a good thing about somebody who was a evil or dictatorial ruler.
Well,
But
you know
yeah,
what? I tell them they should watch the episode called Space Seed of Star Trek, the original series.
does that have to do with Khan?
Yeah, Khan, Kirk's
Khan,
greatest enemy. But he
yeah.
admired him. Kirk admired him.
Kirk, he admired him, but he also had to battle him. That's the superhuman guy character in Star Trek. For those who aren't Trekkies, not that I'm a Trek. Are you a Trekkie, Mr. President?
Oh yeah, I'm a Trekkie. You're not a Trekkie?
No. Do you dress up as a Star Trek character?
You know,
on, like,
sometimes I dress up like Captain Kirk.
okay, and you go to like Dragon Con?
Yeah, I'll go to conventions.
You get involved in any weird sex things that go on there?
You know, I do a lot of cosplay, Brad. Either Star Trek or Game of Thrones cosplay.
Wow, that's very kinky, Mr. President. It's good to see
But
your
no, that's
one.
furryism. Furryism and cosplay are two different things.
You okay? Well, you should run on a platform of rights for cosplay.
I mean, cosplay is just dressing up at conventions, Brad. At least that's all I know of it.
But they're a minority group of people, and they are oppressed because people make fun of them.
Are there collie costumes involved?
Collie costumes, like dog, yeah, like the dog. It's like
Yeah.
No. That's like closer to the furry stuff.
You're
Furs,
very
yeah.
specific about differentiating here, but a lot of people see those as one and the same. You've never dressed up as a human dog yourself?
No, I've never dressed up as a human dog.
Has
It's
Baron?
probably good to hear. I think it's quite.
I mean, Baron's dressed up in like a bear onesie before, but he was a small child at the time.
I see. How tall is he now?
9 feet tall.
Okay.
Part Nephilim.
Part Nephilim, exactly.
I'm not a Trekkie, but I did play the part of a Star Trek crew member at my best mate's wedding.
Really?
He asked me to be his best man, to which I
Interesting. Yeah.
accepted along with my other friend. And I just thought it would be nice because he was such a Trekkie. So I thought, we're
That's
going to turn
cool.
up in Star Trek costumes. So we
You
did.
know,
And he
I
loved it.
never liked
Don't
Star
let
Trek.
Brad fool you. You know, he watches all kinds of things like that Captain Bald guy.
Captain Picard, Captain Ball Guy,
Jean-Luc
aka.
Picard.
Yes. No, I was not into Star Trek until the former president here. One night, he made me sit down and watch two things. He made me watch 24, and he made me watch Star Trek.
Oh, yes, Jack.
You know, 24 is one of the greatest
Jack
shows
Bauer.
ever made.
Yeah, a lot of torture.
Kiefer Sutherland. That
Yes,
24?
that's right. Very drunk
Right.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
He's
So
the real tragedy, that Kiefer Sutherland. Real tragedy.
Stella, there are other actors in the show who complained about how he was hammered all the time, and he's a very short guy, and so the crew, they and the director, they would make, instead of making Kiefer Sutherland stand on an apple box like they usually do to do the height stuff, they made all of the other actors take their shoes off.
Right, okay. That was
And the
probably safer, was it?
And Freddie Prinze Jr. was like, "Put him on a fucking apple box. I'm tired of this shit."
But then he would fall off because he was hammered. Was that
He
where
is,
that
he
was
is
going?
hammered.
Or
Well, no, the guy was drunk
Yeah,
all the
about 3
time.
o'clock, Kiefer would just start unwinding.
the apple box would, yeah.
And
He
then they
says, "I
start
gotta keep
filming at
drinking
4.
more or unwind."
Yeah.
It's just like that song, Not Enough Whiskey, from his album.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh my God. So I'm a big 24 nerd, Stella, and Kiefer Sutherland's character is so ridiculous in it. Every person he falls in love with, right at the peak of their romance, dies. It's hilarious. It's fucking hilarious.
Starts to look a
And-
little bit suspicious too, doesn't it?
And then he always tortures the lover of someone he was either used to be very close to, like his ex-wife's new boyfriend. He ends up having to torture in front of his ex-wife, stuff like that. Or his daughter's boyfriend. I have to torture him. I have to, like, he has to do it in front of them every time. It's very funny. And he made a song like after 24, Kiefer Sutherland. It kind of feels like he did it in the character of Jack Bauer. He made this song. It's like a country and Western song called No More Whiskey, where
Not
he
enough
stumbles out
whiskey.
of bed and he's
Not
just
enough whiskey. That's a big difference.
he's talking about how everybody he's ever loved, he's lost, and there's no more whiskey to drown out the sorrow. It's the funniest shit. Oh my God. Everybody should watch that if you haven't seen it. If you
Was
are a
that
24.
is he sort of a bit like a Russell Crowe where he's got his own band and all that kind of thing?
He is in a band, yeah.
Right, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's part
He's
of
a country
the
music singer. He's a Canadian who dresses up like a cowboy.
Oh my God, I want to show it to you.
I didn't know there were so many cowboys in Canada.
Are there?
Apparently.
I wonder if there's
Canada.
something to do with like a creative, like doing the song was something to do with de-characterizing.
I don't know.
I imagine that there's a lot of cowboys in Australia, though. Are there a lot of cowboys in Australia?
They're everywhere. Lots of them.
Stella, I saw a statistic the other day. I don't know if it's true. It said that the country that did the most cocaine in 2023 was Australia. Is this true?
The most cocaine? That's probably all in Canberra.
It's a lot of cocaine.
That's sort of like the equivalent of the White House.
It's a lot of cocaine for a small continent.
That is a lot. I would have probably second only to beer.
So let me ask you: Is Australia anything like Crocodile Dundee?
Yes.
I used to love that Crocodile Dundee.
It is very much like that up in the north. Yep, it is. There's always people like, I don't know how many people, probably because we wouldn't hear about all of them. There's too many people that, there's signs everywhere. Don't swim here. There's crocodiles. And, sure enough, someone thinks it's okay and they jump in and you never see them again. Or just, their shoes float away or something.
Yeah.
Happens all the time, mostly tourists.
You ever had to wrestle and kill a crocodile?
Personally, no. I did have to catch a piglet once. That wasn't easy. So I'd hate to think
They're
what a crocodile
very
would be like.
slippery, the piglets.
They're extremely hard to catch, especially when you're wearing a dress.
Some folks say that pigs are as smart as dogs.
They do. I don't even chase a pig if I'm wearing a dress, personally.
I wouldn't recommend it. I was on my way to a wedding to play music at a wedding, and there was some piglets loose in my front yard. So I had to stop and
You had to get them out. You had to get them
chase his
out.
piglets. Yes.
Yeah.
Were they your piglets?
No, they were not. But I had to chain lock the gate, so I had to help him.
Denver says the Wrath of Khan. Yes, that's exactly. And we have a Troy says it sounds a lot like Disneyland. It sounds like Disneyland with the pigs running out in front. I personally, whenever I see pigs playing with dogs on Instagram, I can't eat bacon for like 2 weeks.
Disney place.
Yeah.
So
I think there's probably a reason why it's not kosher for certain cultures because they're so smart.
Yeah, speaking of kosher, you got all those tunnel Jews.
Tunnel Jews is a big subject.
Tunnel Jews.
The mattress. That was did you guys see those videos?
I spoke to a very good Jewish friend of mine about this the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, actually, Brad, you were the one who you texted to me. I had no idea about the tunnel Jews. I got a lot going on.
Right.
But I'm very Hasidic. I'm very familiar with the Hasidic.
You're very Hasidic? Is that what you said?
I'm familiar with the Hasidic Jews from living in New York for so long.
Oh, the Hasidic.
They worship a very ancient version of Judaism. Anybody who's not Hasidic, they consider Goyim. Did you know that?
What is Goyim? Is that non-Jewish?
Like
cattle.
Not Jewish or what's the other word? Not Philistine.
Gentiles.
Gentile, yeah.
Gentiles.
G-E-N. Gentiles. So that's like not anyone who's not Jewish is a Gentile, basically.
Yeah.
And
all this stuff comes from like the old Torah, right? Like the ancient Jewish religion. So
you're very
a lot of
familiar
times
with this.
these ancient religions don't pair too well with modern society.
Right. So
no, they really need to revise a few things, don't they, Mr. Trump?
Like for one, they have to if they want to procreate, they have to do it through a hole in a sheet.
Well, the Wailing Wall's been there a heck of a long time. Maybe you could have a look at the engineering of the Wailing Wall and try to do that on the border. Maybe that.
The one thing I've been looking out for is snakes on the Wailing Wall, as well as red heifers, full red heifers.
30 holes in the Wailing Wall
They have about 10 or 12 red heifers there, all ready to go.
Well, they got to be like completely red heifers because that's one of the That's
Yes.
one of the prophecies in the end times, you know.
They have to be perfect, completely perfect.
Tunnel Jews is a prophecy for the end time?
No, the red
the red
heifers.
heifer.
Oh,
We got
red
off the
heifers.
subject of the tunnel
Right.
Jews.
Right. Did they ever change those outfits? There used to be the stand-up comedian that I knew, and every time he came out to do a show, he looked exactly like all those guys crawling out of the
Yeah, they dress. They're like the cowboys and the Jews. You know, they dress like cowboys. They're like the Amish Jews.
Yeah, the Amish Jews. Okay.
I think their closet full of clothes would be very, very boring. Like it would be a little bit like a Steve Jobs closet or a
Right.
Zuckerberg closet.
It's the
Just all
same
the same,
outfit
all lined,
over and
yeah,
over again.
lined up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw
Yep.
this meme on Twitter that was like, youth pastor at a Methodist church turns his chair backwards, sits down, and says, "You know what other Jewish person lived in a tunnel?" And then it showed where Jesus was buried, and when he came out, he emerged from the cave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's trying to give a little parallel there, and
Right.
I don't. It's
Oh
just
wow.
I find
Okay.
it. I just find it really strange that a story that trends on Twitter as Tunnel Jew, which was the top trend, comes out right at the same time. You have all of the conflict in Israel and Palestine. It's just like it's perfectly timed to continue to fuel division.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little strange to me, but
They've got lots of little things like that up their sleeve, have they not?
they totally do.
You know, they keep barking about anti-Semitism and this, that, and the other, and then they've got a bunch of footage of these tunnel Jews getting arrested by NYPD or Brooklyn Police Department or
It's
however it works, you
anti-Semitic.
know, with the police.
So what do you guys think? Is it legit or is it just another made up
I don't
distraction
know
propaganda?
I just it's the
I don't know
things.
how seriously people are taking it
I
because I
think
haven't
like
really looked.
a lot of things that are crazy probably go on like this. I don't doubt that there's like tunnels that people burrow and do weird shit in. This theater that we used to do shows at all the time, it was an old church, and there was a bunch of really weird rooms that we discovered that had like kids chairs in them and a bunch of like creepy shit. And I don't doubt that stuff like that goes on. What I think that they do is I think
you
that
know,
they
they have
focus on
youth
it at
rooms
strategic
at
times.
churches, Brad. It's not a weird place for children to go to a church.
It's a back room where the ceiling is very low and you got to crawl to get into it, and there's a kid's chair. That to me is a little weird.
That's a little weird, yeah. It's all right on the, out the front on the pews, but out the back,
Right.
maybe not.
And maybe there's other explanations for it, but people do weird shit. I just think that the news focuses on the weird shit when it can strategically push the narrative forward, and they ignore it other times. So I think it could be real. I don't know. I really did. I'm so baffled by the imagery of it that I'm like, this is the strangest thing I've ever seen.
Mm.
I mean, the guy crawling out of the grate in the sewer. I mean, it looked like a Blues Brother moment.
Yeah, see, when I saw that,
it really looked like something out of the History of the World Part 1.
It's just real weird.
Yeah, I think that was the very first bit that I saw of this whole issue. And my immediate thought was, like, they're not focusing on his face. It just looked like a setup to me. It looked like an acted
Yeah, who's
setup.
filming it? Who's sitting there waiting
And
for this guy?
I mean, they're not going to wear nice clothes like that and crawl out of a grate like that.
And
I
that's
mean,
my
as
thing.
if
Sleep and did he shower with these
They're
clothes
not really wearing nice clothes, though. Those are their uniforms. They wear they wear that outfit.
those long jackets and everything. Yeah, but they must be worth
Are they
bit of money,
waterproof? Do they
you'd
ever
think.
take them off?
It's like a suit.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
Just got the same, 7 of the same, I guess.
Yeah, they must.
Or
I
else they
don't know.
just smell. I don't know.
Maybe. I think if you're living in a tunnel, then
close
it
have you
probably
been
does
to it?
smell. Originally, they said it went underneath this. I don't know what it's called. It's one of those Hebrew words that is a word
Yeah,
for where they go get cleansed
Yes.
and fully committed to Judaism or something like that. And originally they said so it's like a bathroom, essentially.
Kitzvah or something like that.
Yeah.
Kitzvah or something
They
like that.
originally said that it dug to underneath a women's kitzvah or whatever, but then they said, no, it went to the men's. And I don't know what's true or not about the story. I just know that it's bizarre. That's all I know.
Yes, it's Mikveh. I don't know how to say it. Mikveh.
Yeah. Listen to
Next.
this from
Next
Troy. In
Mikveh.
the chats here. Troy says, I once delivered drywall to a house, and when I leaned on a bookcase, I fell down a flight of stairs into a basement with a stripper pole in the middle of it.
Oh no,
Did you dance,
that's
Troy?
awkward.
Did stripper come? But I think people probably have a lot of secret rooms. I know we have a mutual friend, Mr. President, who has described Seth Green's secret house or secret hideaway in his
Well, that
basement.
wasn't our friend. That was Isaac Cappy.
Isaac
I
Cappy.
knew you
Oh,
were going
yeah,
to say that.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Does it have an oversized cot in that room by any chance, or something
don't-
like that?
Those people are creepy as fuck.
It was a weird. This is where we keep the children, is what he said.
That's what he
Where
said,
they
right?
keep the children.
And he was joking, but he's not. But is he joking? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of children's toys, which he was like, I would expect there to be children's toys because of that
Oh.
stop motion show he does.
Oh, I think you say because of all the pedophilia.
But then he was like, but the age range of the toys was just a lot younger than what he expected.
It's just like pacifiers and.
But hey,
bibs.
listen to Jimmy Kimmel, Brad. If
Huge
you're
nappy
hanging
pins.
out in groups where they're telling you to tell people that they're pedophiles, you should hang out in different
Should
groups.
never do that. Yeah, you should hang out with only the pedophiles. Jimmy Kimmel. Yes. All right.
I just
you-
realized I
Okay.
realized who Nikki Haley reminds me of, because I remember at the beginning I said, "Oh, she reminds me of somebody." It's out of Seinfeld, Elaine, but when she was
Oh,
later, when she had she was doing the hair straightening and all that in that other series,
Veep.
like after Seinfeld. Is that? I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know
she
what it
played the
was called.
vice president of Veep. Yeah, no, she does.
She looks just like her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
she
there's
could
a
play
little
her
bit.
if they ever make a movie. She could play her.
You know,
Elaine
and
could
I
play her.
did mention that she doesn't have a square, not a square to spare.
Who? Nikki Haley?
Yeah, during they were talking about the bathrooms.
Yeah, and she won't help anybody out. You're talking about
She
that's a
doesn't have a
Seinfeld
square.
reference. Yeah. You're
Not a
referencing a
square to
Seinfeld
spare.
episode, Mr. President?
Is that what?
Is that a Seinfeld episode reference?
Yeah, it's a sign. What do you mean? Is that a Seinfeld episode reference?
I just you have so
Slipping,
much
Brad.
pop culture knowledge. I just want to make sure everybody is brought in.
Yeah, I don't have a square, not a square to spare. It's the bathroom toilet paper episode, and I think it went along with the love sponge too.
You know all of this stuff about these shows. I'm so impressed, Mr. President. How
know,
could you?
I got a big
insurrection, you're
brain,
watching
Brad.
all these.
I got a big brain.
Yes, you're watching Seinfeld. You're not conducting an insurrection.
You know, you're absolutely right, Brad. You know, but it's one of those shows you can just have on in the background. You know,
Right, and you just get lost. It's a great show. I love
you
Seinfeld.
keep it on in the background. You write some legislation. You take a nap.
Yeah, right.
Sign an executive order.
What do you think about Kramer's incident that kind of ruined that actor's career at the I think the Comedy Store?
Yeah, it's just too bad. It's too bad what happened to that Kramer.
If you
Michael
haven't,
Richards.
yeah,
I don't know what happened. What happened with Kramer?
Michael Richards was at the Comedy Store, and I'll preface this with comedians like Dave Chappelle, other black comedians, they actually defend him. They say that he was, and I've seen comedians do the same thing. I've talked about it on the show. A comedian going way too far to get the audience in front of them to react, and he started shouting the N-word repeatedly at somebody in the audience, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but it ruined his career after Seinfeld.
Oh,
And at
dear.
one point, people actually made some pretty funny cuts of Kramer and Seinfeld where they made him seem really racist.
Of
But
course.
Jerry Seinfeld goes on to, I think it was David Letterman's show, and Jerry's like this. You can't ever take him seriously with anything he says. He always seems like he's joking. And
Hmm.
so he's there with Letterman, and they bring on Michael Richards. I don't think Michael Richards is a racist. And Dave Chappelle, people who know him don't think he's a racist. They think he did something that was not a smart thing to do. that
They
got
think
caught
he
on
just
camera.
did something stupid.
Right. And so it got him, just kind of ruined him. And he is there Michael Richards very seriously trying to apologize about the incident. And the camera is cutting back and forth from Kramer, what people see as Kramer, but it's Michael Richards trying to be serious, to Jerry, which people only know these two in the context of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
the
Yep.
audience, as it's cutting back and forth, and Jerry's just got this like he's trying to be serious, but he can't expression, and the audience starts laughing while he's apologizing, and Jerry starts going, no, this is serious. This is very serious, guys. It's very, and so when he's telling people it's very serious, he sounds funny telling people. Like there's an episode of Seinfeld where Elaine and George are like, you can't not be funny, Jerry. You can't not be funny. And this is a perfect example of him not being able to not be funny while Michael
Yeah.
Richards is apologizing for saying the N-word. Everybody's laughing at it. It's just crazy.
Typecast. Yeah.
Totally. It's like this. It's so awkward because they were trying to apologize, but everybody was like, is this a stunt? What's going on?
Everyone just applauds. Yeah. Good one.
All right. So thank you guys for hanging out and talking. It was fun. I always enjoy it. Thank you, everybody in the chat who hung out. I do have a little bit. Won't play the whole song, but just to give you Jack Bauer, Not Enough Whiskey. Mr. President, I thought you would enjoy this. Maybe a minute and a half or so or this. Would you like to hear this, Mr. President?
You know, it's a great song. I usually listen to it on my drive in.
Here it is. Jack Bauer, Kiefer Sutherland. Jack Bauer here.
Pull the shades.
Describing what he's doing.
Drag your feet across the floor. Memories hang in the hall. Pull them down off the wall. Now it's done.
Did the Jack Bauer turn?
She is gone, long gone.
Takes a swig of whiskey.
There's not enough whiskey
I like
in
how
the world
just
tonight.
waiting for
Not
him
enough
by his bathroom mirror.
The whiskey.
Enough whiskey to make it all.
He brushes his
alright.
teeth with it.
It's time for you to say goodnight.
It's so funny to me because every movement is exactly like he does Jack Bauer. Later, Troy.
Aside from the 10-gallon cowboy hat,
Light a smoke.
Yes.
which DeSantis is going to take from him to be the sheriff.
There's no hope.
He wants 10 gallons of whiskey in that hat.
Start to shake for the hurt. You can't take 'cause it's done.
He's really not a good singer, is
He's
he?
not at all.
It's
But-
very,
so-
it's not a great songwriter either.
It's
Really.
bad. It's really so he's describing his actions and as whiskey. But
I've heard worse.
Mr. President and I, we had talked about, and we should have done this actually, taking for people who appreciate 24, although I know people who are in like the Gen Z, they don't even know what Jack Bauer is, but taking all of the shots of there's like what 8 seasons or something of 24, and like every one of them, his lover gets killed. And it destroys him, right? Taking all of those shots of his lover getting killed and just intercutting it with this song.
Mental note: don't become his lover.
Yeah, I mean they die. Yeah,
Alrighty.
you don't. They die every single time.
I agree with JC. She was saying, oh, I don't know if it's a she or a JC
Yeah.
was saying, he's trying so hard to be Tom Waits. That's exactly what I was thinking when I was listening to it.
Yeah. It's funny. I get
Except
you
Tom
get
Waits
enough
is so
money, you
much
can
more
do anything
talented.
you want. So,
That's it. Yep, you can just buy the record company.
Mr. President, you need to listen to Stella has a lot of good music online. Very very talented musician.
Checks in the mail.
Thank you. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate it. It's been a long show, but I've enjoyed it. Hope you guys have as well. And we'll go ahead and end it right there. Unless you guys have any last words.
You know, go out and vote
Go out and vote for
me.
Okay.
Of
And
course.
Stella?
Who do you even have to ask?
Where
I just
can
wanted to
everybody
say-
find you?
At the Union of the Unknowns and the WTF forum, which is on several places. Easy
Fun
Peasy
show.
Podcast and
Yeah.
Burn Babylon Burn. some of the outlets. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite, and bless your running shoes, Mr. Trump. If I don't speak to you beforehand.
Oh, well, thank you very
probably
much.
will.
I'll take as many blessings as I can get from you, Stella.
You'll be in my prayers, Mr. Trump.
You might end up being his
You'll be
press
in mine.
secretary.
You'll be in mine.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
We will talk to you guys next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day.